Good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting of June 22nd, 2021 at 7 o'clock, and we're in Meeting Room 4 tonight. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we are also in a Zoom meeting tonight, so and that link is on the planning board, on the planning board link on our computers. All right, so let's start tonight. We have some. We have a bunch of things on the agenda tonight, so I'm going to try to move quickly through this, and so that we won't be here until midnight. But the first thing is we have, number one is the rescinding of Old Forge Drive subdivision, and I see that that has been, someone has requested that to be continued to July 27th. Jim, could you?
Yeah, so we're trying to, rescission of subdivisions is not a common kind of thing. So the attorney for Fruit Dior, he's been a land use attorney, he said for over 40 years, and he's never done one. And I spoke with a gentleman from BSE Group, which is an engineering and surveying company, and he's never done one. So we're still trying to figure out the process, but once we figure out the process, then we can publish the public hearing. So there have to be a kind of a plan, an existing plan, and then a rescission plan that would show the new plan without all the lots on it. So we're trying to work out all the details with that. And so we're just asking that the board voted to have it heard on the July 13th, but it's not going to be ready for that. We don't have enough time to advertise for the 13th. So we're going to see if we can get something for the 14th. I'm sorry, for the 27th.
27th, okay. And
it may even get pushed back a little bit from there too, so until we get everything figured out.
All right, thank you, Jim. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for rescinding Old Forge Drive subdivision, formerly the Deacon's Cranberry Processing Facility, so to continue that to July 27th, 2021 at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so Kevin Robinson made the motion, and Connie seconded. And further discussion? Hearing none. Do we still do roll call vote, or?
It's just a good way to do it, I guess.
Okay, yeah, tonight Ellen Cedillo isn't with us, so, but we'll do a roll call vote, just so it goes on the record. So we'll start with, so this is, okay, we'll start with Connie.
I vote aye.
John Gasky votes aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Okay, so that's it. So we'll continue that. All right, next we have a minor modification for Cranberry Point Energy Storage LLC. It's 31 Rear Main Street, map 61, lot 10-0-R and 7-0-R. We had a site walk, I think it was last week. And so this is continued from our last meeting, and since then we've had a site walk. Most of the members of the planning board went to that. I think John Gatsky was the only one that didn't make it, but I just thought that it was appropriate for the newer planning board members that hadn't seen this project before at its origination. Just to see where it is and that it's kind of out in an area that's very secluded. So having said that, we did the site walk, we looked at it. I think most of the members would say that they're moving some of the storage facilities, and they're actually kind of moving it away from the electric easement, and they're also moving away from the road, although you couldn't see any of those things anyway because it was just, it's out in cranberry bogs and woods, and it's down like a quarter-of-a-mile driveway in back of there's an antenna site there. So having said that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minor modification for Cranberry Point Energy Storage LLC on 31 Rear Main Street.
I'll make that said motion.
So I have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion.
Yes, that'd be good. Okay, so had a motion, Kevin Robinson, and a second from Connie Shea. And, okay, so further discussion.
Could I see the original application approved site plans?
I have to go pull them out of the file.
Can you show that?
We have,
Well, I think you saw these that we brought out.
I have
into
the modified plans.
Mr. Chair, we also have Allison Sand and the project engineer, and then as well as Polly Shaw here tonight to answer any questions on the project.
Frankly, I have concerns as to whether this is a major modification or a minor modification, and honestly, seeing the original site plans would help in that regards.
Well, that was one of the discussion points, was they were relocating a whole series of storage compartments, right?
Right, and like I mentioned, if you see, the way it is like, this is the driveway, here's Route 58 here, this is the driveway, and you come up here, it's several hundred feet, and it's all woods out here, and you go past the tower, and they were actually taking containers that were over in this area, and they're moving them over here, which is, further away from everything. I don't know if we have do we have the original? We don't have any of the originals
We
here.
don't have this, no, we don't have the original site plan down here.
I don't know if you could answer any of Mr. Shea's questions.
Unless they have a copy of that, what we previously approved, I would recommend continuing until we can look at both of them side by side to make an informed discussion on it.
So
Happy to
actually,
answer any questions about the concern of the changes, Cornelius, if you have.
Do you have a copy of the original approved?
I don't.
I don't have a print.
Right.
Without being able to compare them, I mean, it seemed to me like this was a major modification and a complete redesign of the site area. I know it's all still within the proposed site area, but it appeared that it was completely re-engineered to me from the original site plans, and I would need those for reference to.
So the major, the key minor change that we made was related to information we've gotten recently from Eversource on the substation facility area, which is on the western side, which basically made it so we needed to reorganize the enclosures for the batteries. So like you said, Cornelius, everything is, the project that was approved for 150 megawatts of storage is still the project you see here. We wanted to make sure that Carver had the latest and greatest design that we're looking at today, given that it has been a couple years since we permitted the site, because we do need to move forward with the state process from a permitting standpoint. But everything within the site area that you're looking at is still compliant with the permitting conditions that were set forth back in 2019. And this, at these types of projects, go through these, evolutions of design, and, Bus Power will be coming back before, building permit phase to provide that final design to make sure that the conditions are still in place and abided by. So we wanted to make sure that Carver had the latest and greatest design before we moved forward with the state permitting process.
Right, it's clearly not the original approved design, and it's been completely re-engineered, and I understand this might or might not be better, but frankly, it's more of a question, is this a minor modification? It's not a name change of ownership, or you're not asking for an extra telephone pole, or maybe the telephone poles be adjusted in some way. It looks to me like this is a complete redesign of what was previously approved through the permitting process, and I find it hard, because I don't have a problem with the project, I have a problem with it being called a minor modification when clearly it's a major engineering change in the project.
Could I ask a question? How many containers, storage facilities there out here? Do you have an idea of that?
In this particular project?
Yeah, in the whole project,
Yeah,
yeah.
this design is showing 116 modules on this
Okay.
plan.
And you're moving,
And the reason we have more on that southeastern corner is because there were more included on the western side back in 2019, and the reason for that was the substation area that we had included for Eversource was smaller, and at that time, Eversource wasn't able to give us clear detail on what they needed for their facilities from a space standpoint. And so we just recently completed the interconnection study process for the project. Back in 2019, we were in the process but hadn't received results. And so given this extra space that we've been working in tandem with Eversource to design around how much they need, there's less room on the western side to accommodate for the battery facilities, which is why they've shifted more so on the eastern side. But again, we're making sure that the order of conditions and the conditions are still abided by, which is why, the setbacks and all of the considerations on this map are the same as what was permitted in 2019.
but what I'm getting at is if there's 116 of these modules, as you call them, it only looks like there's 2, 4, 6, 8, that 10 that you're moving. Do you know?
Without having the exact number, but that's the intent, yes. It's a small number, a small percentage of the equipment cabinets that are moving from one side to the other to accommodate the space that Eversource is required.
I mean, the way it's drawn, it looks like there's 2, 4, 6, 8, so there's 10 units that are being.
I think that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, the eastern side that had the same, pretty much the same number of modules on the east side, that's just, the design has shifted because of the change on the western side.
And could you point out where those 10 units came from? Could you just show us?
Basically this,
Maybe come up closer.
Yeah, if you could just come up and show the board, because to me, if you have 116 units and you're only moving 10, and I just don't see that's a major change.
basically this cutout here had to increase because Eversource required an additional land area for their electrical substation. That's something that's independent of us. We have no say in it, no action. So basically, none of the surface grade or land is changing. Basically, there's going to be a few less foundations here and a few more foundations here. And those pieces of equipment are going to be co-located here now instead of over here. Everything else within the site, drainage, all of those conditions are all the same.
Because it's all gravel there.
It
So
seems
it's
to
not
me that it's been kind of reversed, but, again, without being able to see the original approved plans, I couldn't, because it seemed to me like there was the majority on the western side and a minority on the eastern side, and it seems, without having the original plans, I couldn't.
Is there a particular concern you have of shifting the battery facilities
Well,
on the
it's
site?
re-engineering the whole site. You re-engineered the whole site, from what I recall from the original plans. There was far more on the left. It looks like you basically took what's on the eastern side, from the western side and move the stuff that was previously on the eastern side to the western side. That's a good,
That's not what was done.
okay. It would help if I had the original approved plans.
Aren't they on file here?
Well, if I'd known about this concern
Right.
before, I would have had them ready. But, Mr. Chair, maybe we can pass this one, without, when I say pass, meaning put it to the side for right now. Let us go through the rest of the agenda, and then towards the end, I can go up and check the file. See, what we
I
feel
would
the original
appreciate
plans are.
that, yes.
Okay. All right,
There's a motion on the floor, so we have to modify that.
so I guess what we'd have to rescind the motion in the second for now, or do you just want to,
So instead of tying up the whole meeting, going up
Right.
there, checking,
Yeah.
maybe we just, rescind the motion,
okay,
and then later on in the meeting, we can go and, I can go upstairs and see what I can find in the file. We should have a copy of the plan up there, but sometimes it takes a while just to find things in the file system. So I don't want to hold up the meeting.
right, because we have so much to do tonight, yeah.
When we had it at the last meeting, I kind of thought it might be here tonight. It's-
Yeah, did we have a small sheet showing this the last time?
I think there was last time, Jim, but I don't have one.
Right, they're all
Yeah, I
distributed.
didn't know that this was gonna, I wasn't prepared for this, so, I think, let's see,
Yeah, that's the one.
this was several sheets, I don't know if this had the second one on it, well, these are both the same, I guess. Okay, so, okay, let's, Kevin, could you rescind your
I'll
motion?
rescind my motion.
And, in a second, and we'll kind of delay this and kind of put this towards the end. I'm sorry to do that, but, and then Jim will have to go up to see if he can find it in the files. So,
So motion to take this out of order?
I don't think we need to do that. We'll
Okay.
just continue, I think we're good. So, okay, so we get this. So let me move this to here. All right, so let's continue on to CVS Pharmacy, 100D North Main Street, map 26, lot 1A. So we have a sign here. Anybody here to represent CVS tonight?
Orient signs. It was, just for the record, so CVS already has a special permit in place for their sign program. And what they're doing, they're modifying the Minute Clinic verbiage to, I think it's,
Health
what
hub.
is it? I might have it the wrong way. But they're swapping out the language, and the signs are actually smaller than what's up there right now.
Oh, the signs are gonna be smaller, okay.
Right, a little bit smaller, not major smaller.
So do we know how many signs they're swapping out? Do you remember? I didn't.
Let me just take a look at this.
Two of them.
2 signs.
Yeah, the Minute Clinic signs.
Okay.
That you see on the outside of the building.
All right.
That's what it looked like.
They do have an awful lot of signage there.
Yeah.
They've added a separate clinic in the parking lot, and they've added a lot of banner signs and various other signs.
It could have been because of the cold.
I don't think that's a clinic. I think that's the COVID testing.
Oh, I don't know. It's got signs all over the outside of it, though.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, but
and it's hardwired into the building.
yeah, the inside of it is where all the actual Minute Clinic place is, but outside from personal experience. That's where they do the, that's where they do the.
So if they're just swapping these out, they're not adding any more, and I know, I guess we can have that discussion later on with them, but, I mean, if they're just swapping out something that's there.
Right, they're changing the name from Minute Clinic to Health Hub.
Yeah.
So, is there any further discussion, or?
We're gonna make a motion.
Or I entertain a motion to approve the application for CVS Pharmacy, 100D North Main Street, to approve the sign application.
I'll make a motion. I said,
Okay, so John Gatsky makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Connie Shea, second. Okay, further discussion?
Yes, I would really appreciate somebody looking at the actual amount of signage on the property, though. It seems, it's grown quite a bit in the past 6 months and is bordering on excessive.
Well, I have a question. That outside building actually has signage all over it. Is that all right? I mean, is that special permit?
Well, I think that's what Connie's looking at, and,
And you have a bunch of signage up on the light poles too that's open.
yeah, well, I think a lot of that, I think, has to do because of the COVID, and they were doing testing there, and then now they're doing
Yeah.
vaccinations there, so I just think that they just wanted to make sure that people saw that they were doing that. But, I mean, we can check into it. I mean, I suppose Jim could add that to his long list of, I don't think it's Jim's responsibility, but,
Well, the thing is I can understand that, but as you know, a lot of facilities are now closing up. Is that going to be a permanent fixture there?
yeah.
If so, that's more signage, right?
Well, if they were closing up special clinics and stuff, I would think that the signage would come down for it, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So, and there's nobody here to ask that question, and two, so, but I think just to swap these signs out for now, I think that would be okay, but yeah, it's noted that we probably should, take a look and see what they got for signs.
what do we as the board do to approach them on, with regards to that,
The signage?
the outbuilding and the signs on the...
Yeah, I think we just get it, I think we just mention that to Mr. Walsh, and I know that he's kind of stretched thin.
So will
between-
town approve the sign officer?
Well, hopefully someday we'll have a full-time building inspector. and
We're
I don't
getting
know-
closer, but typically that's the building commissioner slash building inspector is also the sign enforcement officer and zoning officer. So that would be the person, to go out and do enforcement.
Okay.
And
We don't have that person yet.
well, we're crossing fingers that maybe, somewhere
That's,
beginning mid-July, we'll have that person on board, but no guarantees on that yet.
I see this is illuminated. Can it just be illuminated during limited to the hours of operation of the clinics?
I would imagine it is. I think they shut all the lights off at night,
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they would all stay the same, they're just going to swap this different sign over.
Yeah.
Right, but if, when they close at night, is it still illuminated because it's an illuminated sign?
Yeah, they don't really put a whole lot.
They don't really say anything about the hours.
Their application just included their previous special permit.
I guess we'd have to investigate that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is right now. I'm just trying to think the last time I went by there at night, it seemed like the store was not illuminated at all, that the signs weren't illuminated.
Well, to Connie's question, can we just see to it that it's a condition that it's only illuminated during operating hours?
Yeah, we could do that, I guess.
I briefly scanned the special permit, but I don't see anything that relates to hours of operation from there.
Okay, so motion to approve, so we have a motion to approve the sign application, and that's also with the condition that the lights are illuminated only during business hours.
Correct.
Okay. So we have a motion, and we had a motion and a second, right, already? Yeah. All right. And we had a discussion. Okay, so let's vote. Mr. Shea.
It's a special permit, I don't know. Does,
No, this is not.
Oh, okay.
This is not. They're not
Mr. Shea
going
says
over
aye.
the sign, the sign.
Right, already has
Size.
a approved special permit, so this is just
Okay.
approving the swap.
adjustment, so
Yeah.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
All right,
Can I
thank
just
you.
restate the condition? You want lights illuminated only during
Business hours, yeah.
Okay.
Do we have that to sign tonight?
Yes, I got, only,
All right, so I'll move on, and as we go on to the next, we can sign the sign permit for CVS. The next is Plymouth Auto Detail, that's 309 Tremont Street. And that's also a new sign. Is anybody here for 309?
right here. So you want to pick a line.
So, thank you.
So no one's here for them?
So what do we know about this, Jim?
So this is another one where they have a sign program already approved for the property, and they're proposing a sign 25 square feet. I believe in the packet there's an
Picture of it.
example, the picture of the sign,
I didn't take down the clock.
and it's supposed to be flush mounted to the wall of the building.
No illumination?
No illumination to my knowledge.
And this is within the size limits of a regular sign.
Yeah, it's good.
Is it 16 square feet is?
No, I thought it was 20, I thought this one was 25 square feet.
I think, yeah, but I think. Is it general business?
General
Yeah, so
business is 16.
16,
Thank you.
General business. They're looking for those dimensions.
Yeah, so it's 25 square feet.
Jimmy, you saying they had some sort of sign, special sign permits for the building, or?
This is general business.
So what's with the letter from 2017 attached to this?
So they got a special.
So the
permit.
special permit is to exceed the dimensional requirement. So they have a sign in the general business district. The maximum signage you can have is 16 square feet. They're requesting 25 square feet, but the special permit that was issued several years ago, back in 2017, allows for signs to be greater than the dimensional requirements.
Well, only two signs. It says, exceed the dimensional requirements for two signs. Do they currently have another sign up, or is this a third sign?
Well, this, yeah, do you know where this building is? This is
This is a brand-new building down the street from,
Yeah.
It's near the, where the marijuana business is going
Yeah,
in.
next door.
Yeah, next door to the left of the marijuana, where the proposed marijuana place is going, yeah.
so there's two other businesses in there.
So this is gonna be, this is gonna be on the wall. And is this a replacement of the same size? And so they're replacing a sign, it says.
Oh, really? I didn't see it.
Yeah, on the application, it says, are signs illuminated? No. Number of signs, 1. Type of sign is gonna be flat wall.
Okay,
And this is a replacement sign, yes.
all right.
All right?
Must be one of the two then.
Where is that?
Second page,
Oh, second page.
it's in bold, right in the middle of the page. Oh, you got a different second page.
So they're just replacing a sign under the special permit and holding to the same size. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve. Or do we have that already?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Connie Shea, second by Kevin Robinson. And further discussion? Did you ask, would somebody ask a question? No. All right. Okay, so let's vote then.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right. So let's go to, okay, so these are continued public hearings. So the first one is, that we were supposed to hear tonight, is the application of Ironwood Renewable LLC, and this was on 223 Meadow Street. And I see that there has been a request to continue this to July 13th.
So, that's correct.
Okay, so, okay, so it was Ironwood Renewable asked for the continuance, okay.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing on Ironwood Renewable LLC special permit to July 13th of 2021
At 7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock.
And a second?
I'll second.
John? Okay, so Cornelia Shea made the motion, John Gasky second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
It's a public hearing.
Yeah, okay, so we'll, you can start with Rich.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. All right, okay, so, number 6, on the application of Miriam Gorey requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 5300 and 2230 of the Carver zoning bylaw that's located at 149 South Main Street in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 94, lot 11-0-R, and this is to operate a hobby/commercial kennel in a residential agricultural district.
Miriam?
So, we started this hearing a while back. Some of the members of the planning board did a site walk. I think some of the members of the planning board advised Ms. Gorey that maybe she should go to conservation, and I think you did all that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I was looking at the wrong person, all right. Yes, if you could give us your name and address, and then we'll just talk.
Sure. Miriam Gorey, 149 South Main Street, Carver, 02330.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what has happened here? Maybe Jim, start off with Jim?
Sure. So we had, the initial meeting, then a site walk on the property. About a week ago, we had a technical review committee. We had members of staff meet with Mrs. Gorey and talk about the application. So one of the things that Mrs. Gorey wanted to do was to put up a fence on the property, but one of the concerns was that it was in the 65-foot zone, and if she wanted to continue with that, she would have to apply for a notice of intent from the Conservation Commission. She met with Brooke Moreau, I think you met with her several times.
Yes.
And the Conservation Commission, did you go to a meeting and then they came out to your property? Or they just came out for a
She just
sidewalk?
came out, and then we kind of emailed back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so at this time, she's going to hold off, if I'm saying this right, from
Yes.
installing a fence on the property. But it's been suggested that she look into maybe using a temporary fence that can be pulled out and brought back, when dog training happens. Because that was the reason for the fence, was that they wanted a fenced area for the dog training. So the thought was they could, look into that, and so if she were to do that, then she would have to go and, speak with Brooke Moreau, the conservation agent, just to make sure what she's doing is, meets the requirements. And so in terms of the fence, that's a permanent installed fence that's on hold right at the moment. The other part, the other concern was barking dogs. So Ms. Gorey, I have experience on a personal level with this. I have a very barky dog, so we have to find strategies to control them. But on her barkier dogs, she uses bark collars with them, and then usually if you use it on another, like one of your customer's pets, it's usually with the customer's permission.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so we talked about that, and then you also were going to reach out to the two neighbors, the immediate abutter to the right of you as you're facing them, and then the one kind of around the corner, and also meet with the owner of the dog grooming place that's in the plaza. Were you able to do all that?
I had talked. Dave, sorry, Dave. I kind of checked in with Dave a couple weeks ago, and then I bumped into Julie.
No, it's Lori.
Lori,
That's okay.
and Dave kind of just was like, hey, is everything going? How's everything going? Dave, I believe you said that you're not really home to hear the dogs.
I'm not home early in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gone early in the morning, I should say.
He's gone by
And
4 o'clock.
I get home later in the day, so, I haven't noticed any difference myself just because of the hours that I'm not there,
Right.
So,
Sometimes the dogs are still out, but I think you're better at controlling that. I have a new problem, though. I was going to the post office about a week and a half ago, and I can't see through the woods, but we own part of Tremont Street around the corner to Main Street, all the way up to your mailbox.
Okay.
And I came around the corner, and there's a guy parked in the woods cutting down my trees. And so I pulled in, and I said, "What are you doing? Cutting down my trees?" And he said that you guys asked him to clear my trees so you could drive on that area to get to your driveway.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that was your property.
Yeah, that's our
But
property.
the other thing is, we had called, this is not maybe to do with this, but we had called the town to see if they could cut back some of the branches that were dangerous, like rotting. So then they said it was gonna take a while, so we just hired someone to do it. But we didn't know, obviously, we didn't know that was your property, or we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't want your customers driving on my property, because if someone gets hurt on my property, it's a liability to us, and I don't want that. I
So-
don't want that.
You're talking about.
I think you only own up to your mailbox. And I actually think that maybe even a little piece of your driveway's on our property also.
I thought it was a right-of-way, the driveway? Like,
I was
I
never
don't-
told, and it's
I
not on
honestly didn't-
record that there's a right-of-way, that is our property.
I didn't think that the driveway was our property, but behind the driveway is our property. And so, but we were told by the town that if we wanted to cut down the trees that were a problem, that we could have someone do it. But again, I didn't know it was your property that we,
Yeah.
Was this anything to do with the fence at all? or-
no.
No.
No, this is
There
just
is
a
a property
completely
problem.
different
All
thing.
right, well, that's beyond our
Yeah, sorry.
limits here. We
I just don't
can't
want
deal
our
with that.
customers.
I mean, I think that's something that you're gonna have to deal with your neighbor with.
Yeah, 'cause we don't want the liability of
Sure.
a customer tripping. I mean, my sister just had someone come to a yard sale and trip and sue her for $40,000. I don't want that happening to me.
Okay, well, yeah, so I guess you're gonna have to determine where that property line is somehow, but
Okay.
that's not, I mean, that's not what you're here for with us, and we
Yeah.
don't do property line,
Right. I just don't
Determination
want
here.
anyone driving on that.
so I guess you're just gonna have to work, try to work that out. Although, I was just gonna say that we did talk to the neighbor on the right-hand side, the older gentleman.
To Paul, yeah.
Yeah, and he was here at the last meeting
Oh,
of the
he was?
planning board,
Okay.
and he said he really didn't have any complaints about the dogs barking. It was more from the business that was,
Carving.
in that little strip plaza there.
So, and to, just to address your original question, I did speak with Curry, and we came up with a plan so that if my dogs are barking or her dogs are barking, we're gonna just like go, hey, can you like bring your dog inside so they stop barking, just so we can be proactive and
Great.
minimize the like exchange of barking. And again, like I said, Lori and Dave, if you ever, you have my number now. If you ever have any problems about
Yeah.
barking or
Okay.
anything, actually, please call me. And we did the same thing with Paul. We spoke to him a couple times too, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so I guess that's where we are right now.
But we still will need to address the property line problem, because I don't want
Yeah.
my customers driving on my property.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep your customers to the existing driveways, I guess. I mean, that's all
Yeah, it
that I
sounds,
can think of, the driveways that exist, keep them there, but,
it sounds like
yeah.
a survey's gonna need to be done.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. Any other comments by the planning board?
Well, the survey's going to need to be done, and parking is an issue now, because if that was being used for parking, it can't be.
It wasn't used for parking by my clients. Sometimes people will come from Tremont, like if they're coming from 495, you can turn into that little
I don't know
like
why that's
driveway.
there.
Yeah.
But I have our plot plan, we do own. Actually, I just.
Well, I don't know if we really want to get
Yeah,
into that
sorry.
right now, but, I mean, that's something that you're gonna have to discuss, or maybe we have to hire a surveyor just to mark that property line. I mean, all you need is just that one property line to mark, so I imagine with the new redesign of that intersection, there's gonna be some monumentation up there that the surveyor
There's
could use.
Our property line's marked
Okay.
inside the woods, but I don't know about the part that they're talking about.
Okay.
And
There's
this,
no right of way on the property, so that piece of land was a leftover road from something, but
Right, it
it's
could
part
have
of
been-
our property.
Well, it could have been, so it appears that South Main was kind of widened, and I know from a plot plan, the house, your house was moved back
yeah.
from the roadway. So it appears that that is part of the public right-of-way, that driveway there.
Yeah, our driveway,
So that, so you might want to, that's something that maybe both parties, may want to contact John Woods, with the DPW, and have a discussion of, just to
Okay.
clarify, is that a town, the asphalt area, is that part of the town property, the town right of way? And then, here's the other property boundary is a bit of a distance. It says it has 465 feet of frontage. So that's something you might want to check into, just to find out, clarify where those property boundaries are, so that way your customers are not going to drive over your neighbor's property.
Sure.
And then just keep the peace down there. We don't
Sure,
want-
yeah.
Yeah. I would say, don't have your customers park in that area and don't be doing any cutting until you know exactly where your property lines are out there.
Okay.
And I think, Lori, you can have it posted once you've done the survey that you don't want any turning around, and it's almost like it's no trespassing.
Yeah, can I put boulders or something to stop people from going in there?
You'd have to, I would speak to John Woods about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the plot plan that I have, there is no town right of way there. The town's road is right there. It does look like it goes parallel to the road to Route 58, but it shows it as being our property, so.
Well, you could have John take a look at it, and if he can't determine that, then you might have to go to a local surveyor somebody will have to go to a local surveyor
Okay.
to get that marked out or to clarify that. I think that's probably the only thing that you can do.
Okay.
All right. All right, any other questions by any of the planning board members?
No, I would certainly appreciate, see what the surveyor says.
Well, that's a whole nother
Right,
thing, that's
Okay.
something else that they have to do, but as long as nobody parks in that area and nobody does any more cutting there, I think.
So I think a question to you, Miriam, do your customers come and park and stay for a while, or they
No.
generally come
Yeah.
in and make a drop off and then they leave?
Yeah, generally, my customers pull in the normal way and then pull down or stay up near the top of the driveway, but not in the turnaround. But occasionally, they do come through that section. And more often than not, the people that have parked there have been home health care workers for my parents, but not my customers, because my customers don't usually park. And I think people who've parked there, they park there because they don't want to block the driveway because of people coming in and out. So, but I can definitely, I could put up, maybe you want to do this, but I was going to say I could put up like a sign or something and just let people know not to pull through there.
Okay.
So,
Or a bench or something, or, yeah, something.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to John about this, and, I have a plot plan here the town gave me, and I don't see that there's a right-of-way of any kind there. And we were never told there was a right-of-way.
That's something
By
that,
the previous-
you'd have to look at your deeds.
Right,
and-
yeah, you gotta look at the deeds.
But-
But ours doesn't.
So when I say right away, it may be part of the town layout, because they had, used to be a certain way, and then they, kind of kept on shaping
Yeah,
it.
whoever designed it.
This is the board.
Yeah.
So it could be part of the town layout, and then just that was leftover asphalt, after they did some improvements
It
and,
comes down through
you know,
here, right?
made the road,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it connects.
John
Yeah, it comes-
probably would know, some of the history of that.
Okay.
Be able to clear it up.
All right, so, you did make up some, see, this was number 6. Oh, so you did come up with a order of conditions.
Yes.
So is everybody ready to listen to the order of conditions? Okay. All right, Jim, do you want to
Read through?
I want to go through the order of conditions.
Okay, so condition 1, a true copy of the recorded decision as registered at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds shall be submitted to the planning board. Condition 2, the applicant shall comply with section 6.1A, rules and regulations for the control of dogs contained in the town's general bylaws as amended. Number 3, the applicant shall provide contact information to the animal control officer and neighbors so that the applicant can be contacted directly with any complaints about nuisance barking. Number 4, the applicant shall work with the animal control officer, the nearby dog grooming business, and neighbors to develop strategies to mitigate nuisance barking. Number 5, the applicant shall report any violations of the town's bylaws within 48 hours of occurrence to the planning board and describe how the applicant plans to correct the violation. Number 6, the business may operate 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for doggy daycare and overnight boarding for dogs. Number 7, dog waste shall be picked up daily on site and removed from the property at least once a week. Number 8, all dogs must be properly licensed by their home community, and such information must be available to the animal control officer on request. Number 9, vaccination records for all dogs shall be submitted to the operator prior to the dogs being accepted at the facility. Such records shall be made available to the animal control officer upon request. The applicant may either use a temporary fence or install a permanent fence so long as it obtains approval from the Conservation Commission and obtains any other required permits. Number 11, this special permit shall run with the applicant only and shall be void if the applicant does not reside at the location of the business. And condition 12, each year the applicant shall meet with the planning board at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting with all abutters notified to determine if the facility is in compliance with the special permit or further mitigation is required.
All right.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is that weekdays only?
That's 7 days a week. That's our current operating hours.
Honestly, we don't really get a lot of dogs on the weekends, so, and I like to sleep in.
I have questions about parking spaces and maybe a 5-foot setback from the property line.
I think these conditions were done by, they came from other applications that we had done, the planning board had gone over several years ago.
So I did look at the auntie stuff, so I kind of based some of them, on the auntie stuff conditions.
But on the ones that we had, it was just pick up and drop off, so they just had a regular driveway. People pulled in,
Okay.
dropped off their pet, and then
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day, they picked it up, so.
It's just
We didn't
it's an
require-
odd little configuration.
Yeah, and it's given the,
It is, but it is a long driveway,
Actually, there's a by right easement.
yeah. But normally, do you have any problems with the pickup and drop off of, the people,
Banging
you have
into each
several
other.
people coming to the house at one time?
Occasionally, but most often it's staggered, and, once in a while, there might be 2 people that show up close together. So like, there's one person down at the end and there's one person up at the top, and they just wait for each other. I've never had any real issues with like congestion or banging or anything like that.
But you only have a certain number of dogs there anyway, so.
Yeah.
It's what,
It-
7 or?
Right now, I'm kind of up to like 10 on average.
Mhm.
Prior to, that's very recent. Before that, before COVID, it was like 6 to, anywhere from 2 to 10, more on the average of 6. During COVID was like, who knows? But now it's definitely picking up, so,
There were 11 there on the day of the sidewalk.
yeah.
11 dogs, yeah. So do some owners have multiple dogs that they drop off at the same time?
Yes, now, yes, yeah.
Okay. So No, not everybody comes all at once and drops their dogs off at 7 o'clock.
No.
I mean, everybody comes at different hours, and you only have, what, like 6 or 8 cars that may come in the morning, and then 6 or 8 cars in the evening?
Yeah, I mean, the drop-offs are between 7 and, generally 7 and 10. So within that time, if we have like, let's say we have 10 dogs, there's like, it's all staggered.
Mhm.
It's like I said, it's rare that several people pull in at the same time. So, and I try to make it that way too, so that it makes everybody's life easier.
Yeah, but so I don't think your business is any different than any of the other businesses we dealt with, but we never did parking spaces because it wasn't a place where people stayed for a long period of time, yeah.
But in order to address some of the issues raised by the abutters, I think there should be a little bit of a setback from the property line. I understand you own a little more than 2 acres of property. I believe that was listed in here. So I don't think a 5-foot setback from the property line would be overly burdensome.
What do you mean by that? For parking or
No, for structures, fences, any sort of kennel activity.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could.
If we don't address the abutters' concerns, and clearly she has some concerns, then who can?
Yeah, we didn't have any restrictions. Basically, most people had the kennels sort of in the middle of their yards, but would this work with you if we put a restriction that kennel structures, whatever, it can be 5 feet from the property line?
The only problem that might cause, if I'm understanding my property line right, is that right now my fence is on, or close to the property line. So then I would.
Do you mind me saying that? Because I remember the last one you showed me, it was actually over the property line.
Let me see, there's a couple in here.
They think surveying has to be done.
Yeah, probably. I mean, these might be just plot plans, which are just, usually it's just an accurate type of
Yeah.
survey,
But, yeah, see,
unless you
This
have an
is-
instrument survey.
well, you can look it up on Oliver, but this is the property line, and it does come out into the right-of-way, and I believe we discussed that at the walkthrough.
What you think is the right, but your fence is off your property line anyway, because it's off the corner of your house, right? So that is off the property line.
Oh, well, this fence is not here, it's just this fence right here
Oh, okay.
is the one that I have. So it looks like the fence is actually in the right of way, according to this picture.
Are the dogs gonna go out there?
It's in the fenced compounds that we saw, the kennels out.
It's up, so like this fence is up against the driveway.
So right here. So you got the fence right here along the driveway. Coming up right in here.
Oh, that's the
So
right,
what
but
we-
that's the right of way off the road, though.
Yeah, it's not on some of the structures aren't
Well,
on our
that's
property.
because the way that they design the intersection, it's not usually the pavement, they design the intersection, but then there were other structures there from years ago, they pave a certain area and then certain areas left unpaved.
Right,
And it might have a fence on it and stuff like that, but.
No, I'm fine with it, except for the problem that when we were there, and we did our site walk, a portion of the structures of her kennels were outside of her property line.
Which would be on the roadside you're talking about.
So,
Yeah, that's a
Right
by
away,
right
the
easement.
right-
Oh, that right away.
and
And we discussed it at the last
So-
meeting, and we discussed it at the sidewalk.
The only way that you could determine that, though, is by a survey.
An instrument survey.
Mm. Mm. So,
Well, it was in the document submitted to us, and Oliver GIF also confirms it, and we were there. I just want to make sure that it's all contained in the property.
but that's used as a private driveway now.
It's,
And
yeah, it
the
doesn't,
main road's here, but you're
Right.
saying that the road layout is over here.
but it's a by right easement.
You look at,
I mean, the other thing is, we're responsible for maintaining that driveway and the trees and stuff in there, so it's not like, I mean, it is town property, but we maintain it, so I don't know if that means anything, but like, we definitely kind of take ownership of the maintenance of it. I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
I guess I would like to know what the, what
I don't know,
what
I
the-
would say with something like that, you have to talk to John Woods. And
Is he the, which one?
well, he works for the, he's the DPW
Okay, so
administrator.
he was
So-
at the technical review meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
But, we probably wasn't aware of all that is going on, but you gotta, there's issues there, but I don't know if it's harmful to anybody or not.
That's what
But-
that's
But you
what I
do
heard.
have your private driveway
Right.
going through the roadway right-of-way there, but nobody's using that as a roadway, it's your private
That's the way it was
driveway.
designed, I didn't
Right,
build the house,
right.
but that's the way it was designed.
So, I mean, what you're
So-
doing is not wrong, because that existed, and it just happens to be in the right-of-way. I don't know what we can do about that, I would just talk to John Woods, but did you have something to say, Mr. Weston?
Eric Weston, 189 Main Street. I just haven't lived in the town a long time. I don't have any of the answers you want, but I can assure, I think you're on the right path, Jim, is that intersection, that driveway, I believe, as I recollect, was redesigned as one of the Route 58 state DOT reconfigurations, whether it was the one in the 80s or the 90s, I don't remember, but I do remember, I recollect that driveway being different. I don't know what that means legally, I just figured I'd tell you, at least when somebody said that, I think you were on the right path.
Right, it's just based on, you look at this, and then there's a plot plan here that shows it as, is it Sneepit Street?
That was secret, huh?
My big concern is we're looking to license a kennel that's not contained within appropriate boundaries.
And another suggestion, maybe we continue to the next meeting, so that then we can go out, or have,
Yeah,
take a look at it.
Okay.
See exactly where the property corners are, I don't know if they're marked or not.
yeah.
And then determine whether or not, all right, does part of the kennel go onto this former part of the roadway?
Okay, yeah, so we won't be stuck here all night, discussing it.
Could I just say one more thing? please?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out that, I believe it was Mr. Robinson that mentioned a survey was in order, and it sounds like general vibes.
Yeah.
If Marion was out front cutting trees, and we can see that that's over the boundary, and obviously, she's not really 100% sure where the boundary lines are. We're just looking out for our future on our property, that if there is going to be an established business there, we would strongly request that the property be surveyed, because
Okay.
I don't want a problem later on. And I know that out front there's probably only a small section where our two properties run tangent to each other, but everything else, it sounds like she's trying to keep the dogs quiet, and she's staying in touch with the butters and everything else, but we would really like to see the property surveyed, because just to make sure that, she's clear.
All right.
I don't want to be rude, but when I came to you guys 6 years ago to open my business, the town planner at the time said to me, and this isn't anything, you guys weren't even there then, but she said to me, you have to get a survey done, and I had a survey done, and it's expensive to get a survey done.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be $2,000 or $3,000.
I know, but see, the thing is I had it done then, and then I came back to her and she said, oh, you don't even need a permit or a license. And I don't have the money right now to
So-
go and
so, well,
resurvey the whole
Well,
property.
hold on, so you had a survey done, and then aren't are surveys usually recorded after they're done, or is it? Oh,
Should
just-
be.
Well, it all depends on what type of plan you have, but they'll mark the property line, but generally, years ago, they just used to put in wooden
Yeah,
stakes, so then,
so there are some
So if-
remaining wooden stakes and pink ribbons,
oh, okay.
but some of them have been knocked down.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna be accurate, I honestly can't afford to go get another survey done. And I feel frustrated at the proposition because I had it done, and then at the time, I was turned away. And now I feel like all these things are being brought up, and I'm like, I tried to do this 6 years ago. I put the money out then, and I was turned away. So I'm established now, and I'm feeling really stressed out about this.
Yeah,
When they moved your house, they would have done a survey at that time.
They did it then, and then we
Yeah,
did it again.
And that would have been recorded with the town.
Yep.
yeah, I imagine there's a good plan of the property. It's just that you have to hire a surveyor to go out and do a survey of the property. I mean, if you could paint up those
But if
stakes.
he already has a survey, so you just,
Well, you have to see where it is on the ground.
right, but
Yeah.
could you get someone to take an existing survey and mark the corners of the property?
They still have to do their
Yeah,
due
which is true.
diligence and check into monumentation.
Yeah, which is true.
Which is out there, but what would help, it may help if you knew the company that
I do.
did the original survey.
I do.
That they might be able to have all that information, like when I did the business, I would just pull that folder out and you look and you see what you did 10 years ago, and then you just go out in the field and then you can, it's
So-
easier to reproduce.
So they could maybe just, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
this one here with the little dots on it,
Yeah.
when there's a smaller version of it, that's the one that we had done per the town planner at the time, when I was trying to open this business. And then
Right.
there's an older one that my parents had done when they moved the house. So there's at least two on here that I know of. I like the idea, I can contact them and see if they can just mark the points again.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that's gonna cost,
I
but,
know, you could ask them,
Okay.
and in the meantime, you can speak to John Woods. We're not stopping you from running your business, so.
I know,
So
I-
you still
I
run your
just-
business, I know that this
I
is
wanna be-
a long, I mean, here I thought that this was gonna be
I
an easy
know.
thing tonight, now we run into all these issues, and now listening to your neighbor and members of the planning board, you go, well, yeah, I guess there were other things that we have to look at here. So, but we're not trying to make it stressful, we'll try to.
I know, I don't mean to be, I'm
See,
just
well,
like,
but I get everybody else's point too.
I hear you, I do.
You do, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a very different case, and it's difficult to figure out where your property lines are.
It's an awkward shaped property,
Yeah,
it's very strange.
yes, so,
Yeah.
I guess that really does have to be established.
And
Okay.
plus you have these
So-
paved areas that look like they're on your property, but
Yeah.
the part of the town right away.
Yeah, yeah.
And, or the town layout, and they've just been kind of abandoned without being abandoned, you know?
Right, right.
Their payment's still there, they're, grind it up and remove it, it's still there. And so it's just a matter of, all right, and could be maybe you have to relocate part of your driveway or have another way cut in, but that's all to be figured out.
Okay.
Because I know John Woods talked about when they maintain the islands, when they cut the grass, they park on that kind of roadway that's
Yeah, that's
in there.
actually the one you're talking about.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
never told there's a right of way on the property, never.
That's.
Even when we walked it with the
Right.
previous owner, they
And
made it sound like we owned it.
Right, so it could be that you don't own it and it's really owned
I
by the
know.
town.
So I think we both need to get it.
Right, so if you get, or, yeah, if you, maybe you can band together and,
I've seen
you know,
this
at least
driveway.
check out the corner in that section of the property. And then also work with John, and he might have some more information on that.
And stuff
Yeah,
like that,
okay.
so.
All right, so we have no motion on the table for anything yet.
We just
We
want to
did,
continue to next.
so let's continue this to our next meeting, which would be, see which one, July 13th?
Yeah, July 13th.
Okay, so,
I'll make a motion to continue the application for Windy Bog Doggy Play Care as Miriam Gorham.
May I ask one more question also?
Yeah.
Is there a maximum amount of dogs she'll be able to?
I think that's in the bylaw.
So,
or is it
in
max-
order to run a doggy daycare, the definition, and I have it in the,
Hobby
What do we do
kennel
with
is
that?
6 to 10 dogs.
so,
6 to 10 for a hobby kennel.
well, that's hobby, but, from the definitions, a commercial kennel shall mean a single premises with a collection of 11 or more dogs, 3 months or older, that are maintained for any purpose, or where 4 or more litters per year are raised, which she's not doing, but, or where the boarding or grooming of dogs is performed as a business. So I read that you need a commercial kennel license when you're boarding 11 or more dogs. And that includes day boarding as well as night boarding.
So there's no limit.
There's no limit for the commercial,
For the commercial.
but it sounds like she's just kind of at that 10-dog point where she might have 11 dogs one day, 12 dogs another day, and then other days less than that amount.
Yeah.
And so, I look at it, it's like, well, I would go for the higher limit so that you're in compliance.
Wasn't there language in this that called it a hobby business in the beginning? I thought I heard that.
Well, in the bylaw, there's definition for a hobby kennel, and it's a little bit different. And some of these definitions, they tend to be a little confusing because you'll have the definition of kennel that includes, kind of like a daycare, but then you go to hobby kennel, and it doesn't include that definition before. So let me just find that section, kennels. Here we go. All right, so a hobby kennel shall mean a single premises with a collection of 6 to 10 dogs, 3 months or older, that are maintained for any purpose, and where fewer than 4 litters per year are raised, except for a collection of 6 to 10 dogs owned by a single individual and permanently maintained on the premises as pets, all which are spayed or neutered, shall not be considered a hobby kennel. And then a kennel shall mean a single premises with a collection of up to 5 dogs, 3 months or older, that are maintained for breeding, boarding, sale, training, hunting, or any other purpose. So there's 3 different definitions. The hobby kennels, I guess when it says maintained for any purpose, that would include boarding, sale, training. But, so those are the 3 definitions. And, like after tonight, if you want to, you can go online to the town website, pull up the zoning bylaw, and then look in the definition section, and you can, print those out if you like.
All right, so, if we meet with you again on July 13th, does that give you enough time to figure this thing out, what you're gonna do? And meet with John Woods and possibly call a land surveyor to see how much it would cost and all that? You think you'll have enough time for that? So it'll be we have 2 meetings in July, one's on the 13th and one's on the 25th.
27th.
27th. So the 13th is okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, okay, we had a motion for
I made a
that?
motion to continue it to the 13th.
13th at 7, okay.
Seconded.
So Kevin Robinson made the motion, Connie Shea second. Further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. And this is this is a special permit, so we can,
It's a public hearing.
a public hearing, yeah.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
All right. All right, sorry. One more hurdle to jump over.
Thank you, I
So,
appreciate you
but
guys.
Hopefully, we're getting closer
Okay.
to something here.
Thank you so much. Thanks
All
for
right.
everyone's patience too, yeah.
All right.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, so the next is an application of David Mulcahy, 1929 Development, Inc., and it's for a business on 157 North Main Street. And we just got a request today to continue this public hearing. It's the O'Dear building. So which day would we continue, which meeting would that, would we want to put that on the 13th?
Yeah, so we should
The 13th?
continue to the 13th.
Okay, so we got that on the, I entertain a motion to continue this meeting for David Mulcahy for 157 North Main Street to July 13th at 7 o'clock.
Cornelius Shea so makes that motion.
Second.
Okay, so Connie Shea made the motion, John Gatsky second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Okay. All right, so now we have an application, so this is another continuation of a public hearing on the application of Cranberry Development requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3700, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 0 Meadow Street, Assessors Map 82, Lot 1-A, 1-2, and 1-3 to allow construction operation of an approximate 1 megawatt large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation. It's property located in a residential/agricultural district, and this is a continuation.
So, Mr. Chairman, we have Jocelyn Gambone from VHB and Lucas Feria from Gillhead Development on Zoom, and they can provide an update. There were a couple of things.
You know,
At the last meeting, we were asked to obtain a legal opinion regarding the requirements for waivers. And so essentially what I got an email from Amy Questle, Town Council, dated Monday, June 21st, 2021. And so basically the requirement for waivers the planning board can determine that only those abutters directly impacted by the reduced setback must sign the affidavit. So I think there were some questions from the board whether, if someone you have like a 100-acre parcel, someone on the far side of the parcel had to sign the waiver. Based on this opinion, that individual, that property owner, on the complete opposite side would not have to sign a waiver, and it's not required. So the board can determine where they need waivers from, or adjacent to where the neighbors are being directly impacted. So for example, if there's a 50-foot setback and there are 3 neighbors over here that are adjacent to that 50-foot setback, they would be the ones who would be required to sign the waiver. But the person where there's not a 50-foot setback, but they're down in another area that's 200 feet away, from where this is at, and there's no reduced setback, that property owner would not be required, not required, but the applicant would not be required to get a waiver from that individual.
So all abutters, she's saying that
You don't do
all the
that.
butters is not necessary?
Correct.
That's correct. So
According
not
to
all,
the
not all
bylaw.
direct abut, so you do not have to obtain waivers from all direct abutters. The planning board has the discretion to say, okay, these 5 people are being impacted, that's where the 50-foot, or say a reduction to 50 feet or 90 feet, where they're being reduced, from the 200 feet, that area is where you need waivers from.
So,
But if you're further away and maybe you don't, you have a 200-foot setback, yet you're a butter to that property, you're not required to get a waiver from those individuals.
so we have 600 feet changes, so it would have to be within 600 feet. Is it of the project, of the property? She's not very specific. I mean, if he's more than 600 feet away from the neighbors, I might be inclined to agree with you, but but
It's not necessarily the distance away, but it's also where the reduced setbacks are located. So if you're in an area where the setback is being reduced from 200 feet, let's say to 90 feet, only the property owners in that area you would have to get waivers from. But if you went, and then that's where the reduced setbacks are. And then if you go back to the 200-foot setback, those neighbors that abut the 200-foot setback you would not have to get waivers from those properties.
Yep, Jim, hi,
Yes.
this is Lucas. If I may just chime in. So for our project specifically, we have 3 properties that we require this 200-foot setback reduced. We have gotten the signatures for all those 3 properties. All the remainder properties that are abutters, but are not direct abutters, as the definition of the zoning bylaw calls it, they have plus 200 feet.
so you get waivers from all the direct abutters.
The direct abutters where there's impact reduction and
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, and that was part of the response that town council provided recently. Essentially, there's no specific definition between abutters and direct abutters on the zoning bylaw. So town council determined that the direct abutters would be the ones directly impacted by this 200-foot setback. Therefore, we've gotten those signatures and yeah, we would not need to get the remaining ones.
So we still have yet to do a site walk here, right?
no, we haven't.
Yes.
So we have to schedule a site walk.
Yep.
Okay, so town council said that we can go ahead, or they feel that the direct abutter issue is under control here. So we can look at that at some point in time, but we still have to schedule a site visit. The reason we didn't have a site visit before, because I just didn't want to waste the board's time walking out to a project that we thought that had the possibilities of not meeting all the requirements. But now we find out that it appears that it does meet all the
Right.
requirements.
Now, there's another issue, which is the access, and then can you provide an update for us, Lucas, on that? That has to deal with the frontage requirement, and legal counsel for the town said that if they did an A&R that combined the agricultural parcel with one of the residential parcels, they would meet the frontage requirement. Can you provide us with an update on that, Lucas?
Lucas, I can if you'd like. So this is Jocelyn Gambone from VHB. So the suggestion was made to prepare an A&R plan that basically would remove the common property line between the 2 lots, and then we would carve out or identify the area of the project, which is just limited to the bog, from a tax perspective, so that takes care of the concerns there. But the 2 lots would ultimately be consolidated. Lucas has reviewed that with the landowner, and they had no issues with taking that approach. I think the only request that we were going to make is that we just make this a condition of approval. That way, the applicant and the landowner don't need to go through the cost and the expense of preparing the plan in the event that we don't obtain the planning board's approval for the project.
Well, you're going to need the frontage in order to get approval.
Okay, so we need to submit the plan beforehand?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I guess we...
So I think the next step here, just to quicken things along here, let's schedule a site walk, and I think that's important. And then if you could bring with you at the site walk a copy of the plan that you're working on, and just to show us the direct abutters, and just kind of explain that, just to assure the planning board how this all goes, because it is kind of confusing, just sitting here thinking about this, so.
So you're looking for a plan that would show the abutting parcels?
Yeah, just to explain it, because
And then which
here we are
ones-
talking about it, but, I really need somebody to explain it, and just so all the planning board members understand that. And then let's set a date for a site walk, and then we'll continue this to a meeting. But we have to do a site walk. We always do on all these things. Yeah, we'll see what Jim says. I mean, I don't know what day, what meeting you want to continue this to.
I was going to suggest the 13th, unless you still, because you might need some time to, complete the A&R plan, and so you would have it available at one of our, at a future meeting, it'd be all set. I don't know how much time you need to do that. So we have the 13th or the 27th. Usually we go for the 27th. It gives you plenty of time to put all the pieces together, and hopefully we'll have enough information that, maybe the board can make a decision that night.
Yes.
The 13th is reasonable on my end to prepare an A&R plan.
Okay.
And we can certainly submit that prior to the 13th. I guess my only other question would just be the status of the peer review on when we expect to get the next round of comments from the peer reviewer.
Right, so I think, one thing we're trying to solve is I think they're stuck because with the frontage issue. So if you describe what you're doing with them, maybe provide them with a copy of the A&R plan so that they can comment on that. And then, any other, have you done a response to comments to initial peer review?
Yep, so we submitted that prior to the last hearing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll catch up with Fuss and O'Neill. If you can provide them with a copy of that A&R plan that deals with the frontage question, and then they could comment on that with a peer review letter, and I'll talk to them to gear it for the 13th.
Okay.
The 13th sounds good?
Okay.
Everybody?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so, we'll vote on that later on. We also need to vote on
the only question I have on the A&R plan, and this is actually something that was brought up recently with the landowner, was the way it's currently set up right now. There's one property for the landowner's residence, and then the other property, which is the agricultural property that he also owns and is currently an agricultural property, where we're planning or proposing to place our project. If we file this new A&R plan and essentially the lots become one at a later date, if the landowner in the future, say like years from now, decides to sell his home, how would that work in terms of the property setup?
I would think it'd have to be after the project was decommissioned, or it would be remained as a whole, otherwise it would become non-conforming.
I don't know, I guess that's a question we'd have to ask. I would say that if we combine the lots, then
They're combined.
it's combined. So if you sell the house,
Right, and then in the future, if you, after the project is decommissioned, then you could split them.
yeah, right,
But that's-
right. Well, see, that's why in a lot of these things, they try to separate the project from any other properties. And that's one of the reasons. So now you get a project, but you don't have the frontage.
Well, wouldn't they just be able to do like I guess like a subdivision?
Well, you can't, but see, the problem is they do have two lots. They have a house, and they have another lot over here that they want to do the project on. This lot doesn't have enough frontage. This lot does.
Yep.
If you combine them both, and then this project has enough frontage. But then if you go to sell this house,
Right, I understand that. But
then that house is,
But then if you if the property owner then carves it back up again,
then it leaves this without enough frontage.
Yeah, they become non-conforming.
so it has to go back
At that
to the-
time,
so
couldn't
if
they
he
just
breaks it up, it
prepare
has to go
a
back to
full-blown
the original
subdivision
property.
plan and make Cobblestone Way
Create a new,
a true right-of-way?
Yeah, no,
they can't create a new lot off of it.
no.
It would have to be off a town-approved right-of-way.
Right, but they would, if they went through the formal subdivision process, it could then become a formal town right-of-way.
I don't know, you have to talk to your engineer about that and your land
She's the
surveyor. Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah,
alternative,
I
actually,
mean,
and-
you have to have a roadway that's acceptable, that you have frontage off of.
Right.
yeah,
And,
You have to look at
if
the-
you don't have that, if you don't have
yeah.
it.
You have to go through look at the subdivision rules and regulations and come up with a solution.
So, Jim, one alternative that we discussed in the past before landing on this A&R plan was building some sort of, or incorporating some sort of cul-de-sac off of Cobblestone Lane. That way, there could be enough frontage on the project property. And there's already somewhat of a similar setup on the property. I think it would be worth, when we are out there on the site visit, to discuss this as well, because I've been on the property before, and I think that could be a solution.
Right, so you should talk to your engineer and to see if that could be done. They should look at the town subdivision rules and regulations and look at the different alternatives, okay? Do we do an A&R, or do we do, some form of subdivision where a cul-de-sac or other device is used to create the frontage that's required for all three lots?
Okay,
And then, if you're gonna, but you will still need the frontage regardless of the process you use in order to get approval for the solar array on the agricultural parcel. So either you combine it or you figure out a solution where each of those three parcels has the required amount of frontage.
yep, understood.
Okay. All right.
So is this still a viable project?
Well, they have to come up with a solution. Maybe we could go out and do a site walk, at least everyone sees what it looks like, and then they'll have to come back with a solution that works, that works for their landowner, that works for, Gale Head. But it's up to them to solve the problem.
Yeah, and we have a path forward here, so we'd be happy to schedule a site walk while we figure out this and submit to the planning board.
Okay, so I don't have plans in front of me of that particular project, but if you could, if there's a way that you can mark out the corners of where the solar panels are gonna go, and so that we could identify those areas, and or if you're placing them in a cranberry bog, at least have somebody come out with us so that you could tell us
Yep.
what cranberry bog it is. I mean, sometimes it's just an entire cranberry bog or whatever, but if you could mark out the limitations so we could see where those things are.
Yeah, and I can be present during that meeting as well.
Okay, all right. All right, so let's pick a date for the site walk, and then we'll have to vote on the continuance of this public hearing. So, we have been doing them at noon. So, our next meeting would be the 13th.
Right. So I guess are you guys going to do an A&R plan for the 13th, or are you going to do something different? You might need some more time to come up with a solution, so.
I think we can still do the 13th. Is that correct, Jocelyn?
Yeah, assuming it's an A&R plan, but we can chat offline about that, but that would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, so today's the 22nd. How long would it take you to mark out the areas of the solar project?
We'll likely end up doing it the day of, so when we're down there.
All right.
Just go out early and do it the same day.
Okay, so we have been doing these site walks at noontime, so if you could get the guys out there early in the morning, that would you could work it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, when is there a good time for you, and then we can ask the board members?
So it would have to be next week, the week of the 28th.
All right.
28th at noon?
28th of June.
So that, the 28th is Monday, is 28th an acceptable day for everybody, noontime? I mean, if you can't make it,
Yep.
then we can drag you out there at a later date, or somebody can take you out there.
What day is it?
I can try.
It's a Monday, June 28th is a Monday.
How's that go with Mr. Shea and Mr.
It
Dion?
works great with me.
Okay, and I'm sure, yeah, we'll talk to Ellen. And then, and then the same, I know that Kevin is out there during the daytime, but I'll be happy to take you out there anytime, any evening or over the weekend, Kevin, if just get in touch with me.
Yep.
And the same with Jim. All right, so let's do it, let's schedule it for Monday, June 28th at noontime.
Okay.
And then I'll need a motion to continue this public hearing on the application of Galehead Development on 0 Meadow Street, to continue this public hearing to July 13th at 7 o'clock.
I'll make that said motion.
Okay, so.
I'll second that said motion.
Okay, Mr. Robinson made the motion, Mr. Shea second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
Community Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right, so we'll see you June 28th at noontime.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. This is another continued public hearing on the application of Northwest Plymouth Street Solar LLC, requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3700, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaws, located at 0 Plymouth Street, 204 Plymouth Street. Assessors map 48, lot 2, 6, and 7. This is to allow the construction and operation of a large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation, including battery storage and appurtenant equipment and interconnection on active land in agricultural use. Properties located in a residential agricultural district. So this meeting is a continuance from the previous meeting. There has been a site walk done by most of the planning board members. Ellen was there, see, Rich Connie, the only one was John, I think, and, John did go, okay.
John and I went
So
out on the same night.
Kevin was the only one that didn't go. So, well, all I can say is when we went out there, see, we drove down the path to the motorcycle arena, and this is like on the Middleborough Carver line, and then off to the left of that road is in back of some of the houses that are off of Plymouth Street. There's a small portion of the solar panels in one bog, and then in back of that, across a wooded area, and further down and back in another bog area, there's a larger solar panel area. We walked in between the two solar panel areas, and you could see there's 4 or 5 houses that had somewhat of some had a view, some had very limited view, but I think all these people have signed affidavits to allow this, and you can explain that a little bit more. And then as we continued around, I'd say 90% of all the electrical is going to go underground, all the wiring to the street, and then there's a small portion on a road, a gravel road that goes out to Meadow Street, has like a 20 or 30 high embankment on one side, and on the left side there's a swamp that's all heavily, both sides are heavily forested.
You're talking about Plymouth
Plymouth
Street.
Street, not Meadow Street.
Oh, man.
New lot.
All right, maybe I shouldn't say anything more. This is not, see, all these projects, they all start looking the same after a while. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I should just be quiet and let you continue.
I thought you did a great job.
I know, but for the next one.
Excuse me, Sarah, is it possible maybe to bring that a little bit closer?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
I knew one day this was going to happen to me.
I did send in some 11 by 17s of this plan set too. If you have them at the table, I'm happy to point out anything. For the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas, and the landowner Eric Weston is here with me as well. Kevin Corbett from the solar developer is online, I believe. I can't see him, but I think he's there.
Online.
Okay. So just to give the board an update from where we left off in late May, after we met, we received memos from the fire department as well as Fuss and O'Neill, technical memorandums with some comments and things that they wanted us to adjust, minor things related to stormwater primarily through Fuss and O'Neill, and to answer some questions that they posed similarly to other projects. Then we had our first site visit on June 11th with the majority of the board, and then the outliers on June 15th. So we, as Mr. Chairman was describing, we were able to drive down this access road and pull into the bogs and look at the site in its entirety. And Kevin, I know you didn't have the opportunity to go out here, but looks like a cranberry bog. And it was great to be able to show at least a portion of the board what the site looks like. I think that does go a long way. So after that second site visit, we sent along a response to Fuss and O'Neill and Carver Fire, and received Fuss and O'Neill's final memo late afternoon today. And they had a couple of suggested conditions, as they typically do, but the technical questions that they had have been satisfactorily answered. So one of the other things I wanted to just make the board aware of, and I did mention it on the site visit, but for the folks at home and abutters potentially listening in, we did, at our last hearing, there were a couple of Plymouth Street residents here that were asking about vegetative screening, a landscape plan, which we hadn't included initially because we wanted to talk with the neighbors who live there first before proposing anything. So we met after our last hearing, and then we put a planting plan together, which is in the revised plan set that shows some trees planted down here, actually closer to the array itself, not necessarily right at their property line, just because of the proximity, as well as some trees down here where this portion of the project sort of jogs out. And there's a more detailed plan. The aerial just shows it a little better, but there is a more detailed plan with a planting schedule on as part of this as well. And so Eric was kind enough to meet with the neighbors and go through this plan with them. And my understanding is that they are happy with it.
They're here, so I'll let them speak.
Okay. And this is something that now is incorporated into the plan set, so I just wanted to make the board aware of that. So we were happy to be able to get that very specific input and respond to that, so. Everything okay?
Yeah.
I know.
For the right-
That's why I send in the little ones. They're easier when they're squished into the table, but these are easier to see. So, that's really the update. So we've got all of the technical stuff discussed. We had our site visit and have now incorporated the planting plan. And tonight, between the three of us, we're happy to answer any questions from the board or from the neighbors, if there are any remaining.
So this is the project I remember, yeah, so we did go in between.
Yep, we drove down this way and came in here.
And then we went down, and then the connection's gonna be to the right side of the
That's
project,
right,
right?
so the.
It's all underground there.
Yeah, all of the all of the electrical connections between the arrays and out to the point of interconnection where it meets the utility-owned section and connects into the grid is underground electric. Anything that says UE on this plan is underground. And then it will be a configuration as determined by the utility provider, Eversource.
In that gravel road.
Yeah, it's
It's a
paved.
gravel road.
It's paved up to a certain point off of
Yeah,
Plymouth Street, and then
yeah.
it goes gravel, but
It
yes.
goes gravel, and then there's a bank on the right-hand
Right
side
here,
as
yeah.
you're going out to the
Yeah.
street, and then there's just all
The-
trees and swamp
the
on the
canal
left-hand
here,
side.
yeah.
And there's no houses or neighbors on either side. Yep.
There are two homes, but this one is at the top of this hill through that wooded buffer and through that wooded buffer as
Yeah.
well. I mean, if you remember that coming in and out, or coming out, we drove in this way.
Yes.
And then drove out this way.
Yes.
So when you drove out, it's lined with thick vegetation and
Pretty dense woods.
and
Yeah.
as you said, the fairly significant topographic change, at least on the right-hand side of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so really where the current gate is for the ag operation is approximately where that line would change hands in terms of ownership. And that's where the ag grade,
That's where Eversource takes
That's
over
right.
and determines what you're gonna put on there.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I did remember this correctly, because, I was.
did.
When you
Yeah.
said, oh, we're not at the right spot, I go, oh, man, I'm really in trouble here.
Just wrong street name. Right project, wrong street.
you had it right.
So I'm good for tonight
You-
anyway, my
yeah, you're
memory's
doing
okay. All right. So you've gone and you've spoken to the neighbors, and then you have some of the neighbors here. If the board members don't mind, would have the neighbors speak.
Sure. Mike Fontaine, 218 Plymouth Street. My wife and I. Yeah, we met with them, we talked about the screening, we're very happy with it. We do have a couple of questions about it, because I know when it gets handed off or decommissioned or whatever word you guys use, if something happens to said screening, what is our recourse, what can we do on that?
It has to be maintained.
Correct, but say something's not maintained and do I call the cops? What is my recourse, what is?
Trees die. You know what I mean? That's all.
So the owner of the project is responsible for the maintenance of the vegetation for the life of the project. If there is some problem that needs to be rectified and you're not having any luck contacting, if they're not doing it proactively, then you can contact them. If you still get no response, then you call Jim.
Okay.
And then we talk and figure out a plan.
Okay.
The only bond in place, I believe, is the decommissioning bond. So I think, we would just work together, maybe it may not be me, but you would contact the solar developer, the owner.
Us or our successors.
Yeah. But that's usually how it works. And the owner is required to provide annual reports for the duration of the life of the project. And that could be part of it.
Okay.
In terms of, commenting on the health of the vegetation out there. There's an operation and maintenance plan that the owner is bound to undertake and also report on annually.
Okay.
So there are measures in place that would be part of the permit if the project is approved for them to be on the hook for that.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that?
Yeah.
That's good.
And the only other question is that the existing electrical that feeds through my yard, our yard, that feeds the pump house, I don't want Eversource changing the scope of the plan and trying to go aerial and bringing that voltage back through my property. That's the only concern I have. But because of the plans, you don't own it. You own it until you hand it off to Eversource. At the point where you're delegating right now, I have no issues.
Yes.
As long as it stays that.
And that's what we prefer as well.
Right.
That's what Eric prefers, that's what the developer prefers. My understanding is that has been approved, the current configuration has been approved by Eversource, so, it's a 95%,
But if it was changed and they decided to try to use the existing lines, would they have to come back to the planning board? Would that be enough of a change of scope? And would we come back?
I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that would be at least a minor modification that we would need to come back to the planning board
Would
for.
we be notified of that?
For a minor mod, no abutter notifications.
Generally, no, not for a
No.
minor mod.
There's no required abutter notification, but could be a voluntary one.
Yeah, we could talk with Eric and he could reach out to you as he's done before, just because we know this is a concern of yours, and I think that, he's not going anywhere, so.
He's been nothing more than
Yes.
transparent.
Yeah,
Very, very
yeah,
difficult,
I believe you. So,
We could put that in the decision, couldn't we?
I think it's,
I don't get any ideas either, though, you know what I mean?
I think it's any change, in my opinion, we've come back to the board for minor modifications for less than that, in terms of interconnection changes. So I
No,
think-
that would be definitely something that you would have to come back for.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because, as the way it stands now, when you do a field and do the do the underground or above ground or whatever, the interconnection, all that has to be shown on an as-built plan. And if it isn't on the as-built plan before the field is allowed to operate, then it doesn't operate until it's corrected, and it has to go by the plan. It has to be exactly what the planning board approved, unless there was a minor modification there. But we do the minor modifications. As we've learned, sometimes modifications happen, and if we want all these modifications to come back to the planning board so that we know what's going on out there. And it really has to be shown so that when you do the as-built plan, all that paperwork has to add up to, this has been done correctly.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jim, I think there's a standard condition in these decisions that says that changes to the approved plan must come back to the board, or something to that effect. So, that's a significant piece of.
You're saying that if it's a minor, we might not be notified of, it might be a meeting that we won't be privy to.
Well,
But as long as he
Yeah,
knows,
we would reach out to you through Eric.
He would tell me, right?
I mean,
What I'm
that's,
saying would be, it has to be publicly noticed, right?
It-
But
yeah.
you wouldn't get your specific.
you wouldn't get the abutter
Right,
notification,
right.
but, this is a very specific issue that you've brought to the attention of us and to the board now multiple times, and the developer's aware of it. They don't seem to have, they don't think that there's any possibility that could happen, but who knows?
Right.
Like stranger things have happened, I suppose. So, I just wanted to, I can't find it right, like on the hot seat here, but I know there's a catch-all
We have the
condition in there.
standard condition that you're required to come back, the project must be built according to the plan, to the approved site plan, and if there's any modification, you're going to come back to the planning board. Yeah.
The other thing too, and I mentioned this on one of our site walks, is that there's another round of approvals that have to happen, because this is not a construction plan, so we need to go back, for another level of municipal review when we apply for a building permit. And if that, for some reason, shows a different, Jim and the building commissioner are gonna sit down and look at the approved plan and decisions and the approved order of conditions from conservation and look at our building application. And if the point of interconnection doesn't match up, that's gonna be a red flag. And, then the zoning officer sends us back to the planning board anyway. So in the case where an applicant, would try to not come back or something, there's another, set of review that has to happen. So, and then, even as part of that, there's a specific electrical review, so there's a lot that still would need to happen before this goes to construction.
Okay.
So many sets of eyes will see it. That's the idea anyway, so.
Condition 15.
Thank you. There's no way.
Okay. Anything else, Jim? No. So, so we had the neighbors speak. Any questions by any of the planning board members?
Haven't seen, I haven't been shown any particular reasons why this isn't pad mounted and underground from that particular interconnection point. As it is, you're proposing to put all the materials up on poles, all the equipment up on multiple telephone poles running down the street, running down the interconnection.
Yeah.
Well, so again, we're not proposing that. We're anticipating that's what's going to be required by Eversource. So we're kind of showing worst case scenario based on what the developer knows from other requirements and similar projects in the area. Now, we did put together an alternative, if allowed, that shows a pad-mounted, pad and pole combination that could...
Technically, it's preferred by...
Well, I know, it is preferred, but we don't always get to choose, is the real problem. So the issue with that, even if that is something that could be constructed, there's a canal along the edge of that property line constraining that area. Yep. And we didn't stop to look at it, but as you drove toward the exit where the point of interconnection is proposed, I don't know if you noticed it, but you could see it sort of on your right, and that's right where the property line is.
Culvert.
Yeah, it's very tight right there. It's an idea that, we put together, or, the applicant put together. I don't know that it's gonna actually work, but again, we're anticipating that what we've proposed is what's going to be required by Eversource, because that's what's required now. This is something that we could propose to them when we get to that point. It's just, as we talked about, it's just sort of up in the air at this point.
Is that in a flood area, though? I mean, I've heard sometimes they prefer to put it on a pole, the equipment on a pole, because it might be in a flood area.
Well,
I mean,
it's
by the culvert or...
more than flooding, it's just, there's just not a lot of room right there to squeeze it in.
Okay.
And really, one of the things that is beneficial about having the poles on this particular site is that it is very well hidden in that narrow entrance.
That's right.
And if we were to get approved for some sort of pad-mounted option or portion of it, it would really push it back into the open area, or would require significant grading and tree removal to make space for it. So we're trying to take the...
Wasn't the original plans to put it in the project area, and you were asked to move it out, and isn't that all wetlands and cranberry bogs in that particular area surrounded by canals and bogs?
It is, yeah, but, I think it's all congregated now in one area as opposed to spread between the other equipment pads, so the
Right,
footprint
but
grows.
I'm just saying that if you could put it next to a canal out in the project area, I don't see what the difficulty is with making underground connections. You bring the underground line all the way out, I don't see, I didn't see what the issue was. There was a lot of land there. It looks like you get over 200 or around 200 feet frontage. I know a brook runs through it, but I don't know.
Well, it would have to be put, any kind of pad would have to be back here in the open area because it's just too narrow where the existing access is. So, I mean, and then it's just further constrained. There's just a road here. It's not open like these areas are, so it's an idea. And, that's,
You can, yeah, sure.
it's one of the things that possibly could work. There's just really no guarantee.
But you still have to have poles out by the street.
Correct.
Because you have to jump over the road to
Yeah.
hook onto the main
Yeah.
line.
Yes.
And that's gonna take 1 to 2, but it's gonna probably take at least 2 poles, maybe 3 poles. Anyway, you have a brace pole maybe, you have a couple of poles, and then they jump over the road.
Right,
So
but there
you're
is
still
some-
gonna have a certain amount of poles out there.
Yeah, 1 or 2, but 10 or 11 with all the equipment mounted on it, and the equipment's not quiet, and it has a much broader reach spectrum across the area. It's called, our bylaws ask for it, and it actually
Right.
says electric transformers for utility connections may be above ground if required by the utility provider. And frankly, just coming out to the disconnect and crossing the road there was already a pole at the end of the road. There was already a connector pole at the end of the road anyways. So I'm just feeling that underground, unless it can't be done.
Well, it's not underground, it would be at grade or on a pole. Yeah, underground is only really to get it to where it meets the utility provider's connection
Yeah.
here. We've taken it as far as we can, where we know we have control of that, the developer has control of that. Beyond there, it's got to come up.
The map you just showed me said the utility provider's connections at the street.
What's that?
It was the other map.
This is the one I
this
showed
is-
you.
yep. It says, stabilized construction, it says customer-owned recloser, customer-owned disconnect, trees cleared, point of interconnection is at Plymouth Street.
You don't have conditions for this
Utility-owned
time,
pole
do you?
with
You know what?
recloser
You don't
at
have
Plymouth
conditions
Street.
for this time.
Utility-owned pole
I
with
do.
meter
Oh, you
at
do?
Plymouth
Okay.
Street.
Yep,
And then you get a customer-owned riser pole with a disconnect switch
Right.
at Plymouth Street. So the utilities end at Plymouth Street, and when it becomes Mr. Weston's property, so do all the
No,
other
that's not correct.
connections.
They have an easement, or they have access from here to this point. They meaning Eversource. It's not out here where that all ends.
Because that's what your map says.
Well, that's, what you're reading is black, the black text is out of date. The red is to show the potential layout for pad mounted and pole mounted.
Right.
But,
It still says customer, 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 utility, and that's all, it's
Yeah.
all at Plymouth Street.
well, everything is in this area at Plymouth Street. So, if Kevin is on the line, he may want to weigh in on this as the developer.
Are you there?
Yeah, hey, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's sort of correct, but the issue is that Eversource dictates the location of those disconnects, the customer-owned stuff. So really, the plan that we submit to them, once they get to the point where they actually have an engineer assigned and review it, is reviewed by them, and they want and they require all of that location as close to the point of interconnection where on Plymouth Street as possible. So we've had situations in the past, recently, where we've had equipment further into the site, and they made us move it closer to the point of interconnection. So in theory, like some of the equipment it says customer owned is customer owned, but we don't, Eversource dictates the location of it in some senses, where they won't accept plans and locations that are not, not close to the point of interconnection, basically. If that makes sense.
It makes plenty of sense. I'm just curious why it's not underground until that point of interconnection. I understand there has to be an emergency shut off for the fire department, and then the utility company's gonna need some, a pole or two to connect, but I'm just wondering why there are so many poles on otherwise. I mean, if the utility company sends us a letter of representative saying that this is what you have to do, that's great. If you put it in as underground and they send you back a letter saying you can't do that, then we'll accept that according to the bylaw. But other than that, there's no real issues of topography or soil conditions that would otherwise preclude it being going underground. Mr. Weston, sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, Bruce.
Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
For you, Jim. Just as kind of the expert of the property, where that is constructed, where that's drawn, is a bypass canal in Flume. And I do not believe that when you factor in those constructions and you try to also access in and out with tractor trailers for cranberry harvest and equipment, that is a pad mount will be viable. And in the spirit of what I think is intended in the relationship that I've drawn with my neighbors and the conversations I've had about poles with the direct abutter, the pad, if processed, if it went through, will be viewable, at least partially, by neighbors, whereas the poles will not be. So that's the only thing I'm bringing to your attention. I understand where you're going on the broad bylaw, but I was just looking out for my neighbors.
No, I get it, because the bylaws look out for your neighbors too, but the bylaws are very broad, it's pretty specific. But as I understand it too,
So we were just, so the solar company agreed, so beyond that gate, which is an artificial line that you guys saw, that's just where I use the gate. If I need to bring in equipment, I can get off the road. But beyond that gate, they don't have visual. So that was kind of, my thought process. They're bringing underground electric beyond the view of the neighbors and outside my agricultural operation. So nothing, pads or poles, nothing hinders either the neighbors or my agricultural operation. So that was the spirit by which I kind of, verbally talked to them a long time ago.
Well, I do understand what you're saying, but I also do know NSTAR will cut down trees if they interfere with the wires. So putting all those poles up there, they might turn around and cut a bunch of that woods out of there.
There could be some trimming, but it is a significant amount of vegetation down at the stream and across the stream. So I mean, they can't cut. They can only trim adjacent to their poles.
Well, I don't know, because the town told me when they were around my neighborhood, NSTAR has the right to cut a tree down.
Well, we can tell you, I spent over 5 years getting them to cut a rotten tree on top of a pole.
Hey, I tried stopping them cutting my trees down. They took like 15 out of my yard. It interfered with a power line.
Yeah.
now, in the subdivisions, I see it all come out of ground into one box and then up into the poles, and I'm just finding it difficult to believe that it can't be done in this situation.
Well, they may have more of the different type of electrical equipment than from a subdivision. From a subdivision, it just drops down from the main line, goes to a transformer, and then goes out. On a solar project, that might be different equipment they have
For
to
you,
use.
would it be agreeable, because this affects me too, and Pat can, it's Pat, right? Kevin could chime in, but would it be agreeable if they asked Eversource, but I just asked that it be beyond the visual reference point for the neighbor?
I mean, it's kind of...
if possible, beyond that visual reference point and outside the area of agricultural operation.
Well, I suppose you'd have to, if it's required by the utility provider, we can't say anything, so it's out of our control. So you'd have to have the utility company provide a requirement or some form of requirement that I just don't imagine that they do. I mean, I know they come down, or could come down and deal with stuff, but a letter would be fine. But I just don't see any reason why one pad mounted operation instead of I can't even tell how many poles are a forest of poles, 10, 12? I think I counted 11 last time, but it's hard to tell from the drawing. I don't see how,
If I understood correctly, because I was, when we talked about this, and please somebody chime in, they're not drawing 10 poles, or they're trying to give you a worst-case scenario. Currently constructed, most of them fit within a parameter on average. But they're gonna put in as few poles as possible.
Yeah, we've seen other projects, they just do like 4 poles, and that was it. So I don't know how many they'll be doing here, but
Chair, question was Sarah, is it 6 poles out there? I tried to do a quick count, but I just want to make sure.
I really would prefer to defer to Kevin as the,
Or the pole counter.
well, I mean,
So the
he's really
counter.
the solar expert on this, you know, it's out of my area of expertise, and I know, you know, about it from, you know, the context of this project, but, you know, I don't personally know what goes into that calculation of how many poles and what equipment is atop them, and you know what I mean? So I really would prefer to defer to Kevin on that.
all right, Kevin, how many poles are we going to have out there to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, so worst case, and like I think Eric was mentioning that, you know, we are discussing with them on, you know, this project and other projects, although, you know, this project, they haven't had an engineer assigned, so it's pretty much impossible to get any information from them. I think in worst case, like we outlined, there would be, I think, 11 poles. But, you know, our thought is that, you know, we have the conversation with them once the time comes to discuss what possibly can be pad mounted and the location of it, and, you know, we go from there. But I think we tried to outline, you know, sort of worst case in the event that Eversource says that, no, you can't do anything pad mounted and it has to be on poles. Like, you know, the proposal that is outlined is essentially a worst case scenario.
Well, you know, out of all the projects I've seen, poles going down this roadway, for one thing, when I was driving down the road to the project, I missed that driveway completely. I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
And then the only way I saw the project is because I saw the landfill. And and to have poles go down there, you know, I could see in maybe some other projects where it might not be the best thing to have the poles go down. If you have houses on either side or whatever, if the neighbors complain about it. In this particular case, I just don't see that. I understand what Connie's saying, I read the bylaws too, but then you're dealing with Eversource, and so they'll have to, if things change, they'll have to come back with a minor modification or something. But, I mean, we're talking to people that, right now, that really don't have the answers. So,
Right, no,
you know.
I get it, and that's, but my concern is electrical transformers, unless it's required by the utility provider, should be on the ground. I mean, it's what it says.
Well, yeah, unless they have a reason for that. I mean, they may have a reason for vandalism, for flood, for whatever. You put them up on a pole, you know, they can't be, people can't reach them. I don't know what their reasons are, but, I mean, as far as this particular project is concerned, I think the biggest concern of mine is making the neighbors happy with the view of the solar panels over the bog. None of the neighbors have a view of these poles. So that would be my concern, and I think we have landscaping there, and I think that that's all been taken care of. So, you know, we could talk about this for another 2 hours. It's not going to take us anywhere.
I'll change the subject. How many of the abutters have signed waivers?
I believe it was 5.
How many do you have left to get?
We have 0 left to get, that's total.
Oh, you got Ravenwood and...
We got Ravenbrook, yes.
And you got Cape Way?
Yep.
So that's 2.
Well, it's Carver, Middleborough, Cranberry, actually, that owns this kind of hockey stick piece between Cape Way. So
Okay.
they're the actual direct abutter. We don't abut Cape Way, actually.
And that's, and so Cape Way's outside of the 200-foot setback then?
Well, they're not a direct abutter, yeah.
They still get a 200-foot setback from their property line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the property line is here, which abuts the Carver Middleborough property.
And how far is that off of the project site?
So we have requested relief from the 200-foot, which is shown on the plan, to a reduced setback of 50 feet.
Right?
So it's 50 feet.
So it's 50 feet off the property line? So
Yes.
it's another 50 feet to the other property line, so
This is an abutter to an abutter. Or, excuse me, this is an abutter to an abutter.
okay. And then, so that's two, and then which are the other three releases you
The
have?
first 3 homes right here along Plymouth Street. And those affidavits have been provided in our supplemental package. Eric worked with the neighbors to go through the plans and explain the project and walk them through it and obtain those waivers for the setback relief. The remaining abutters have at least a 200-foot setback from the property line, if not more. So we've shown both the 50-foot minimum and the 200 on the site plans, just so the board can see. And so Fuss and O'Neill could review that and just sort of vet that aspect of it.
We have the final comments from Fuss and O'Neill?
Yep.
Okay.
And so Indy Glines and I went over by telephone, we went through all their recommendations, and they're pretty much the same. The conditions they're recommending are conditions that they've recommended before, and they're consistent with the recommendations, so I read through the conditions, and we matched it up, and
Okay. Any more questions by the planning board? I'd like to close the public hearing, but if there are any more questions before we do that. Any more questions from anybody out in the audience? Okay. And we really haven't seen any of the neighbors. I don't know if there are any neighbors here other than you two. And everybody else got their notices of this. And then you've spoken to all the neighbors.
Just about all of them individually.
Okay. All right, if there aren't any more questions from the board, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing for Northwest Plymouth Street Solar.
I make a motion to close the hearing for Northwest Solar. Plymouth Street Solar.
Okay, so Connie Shea made the motion, John Gasky second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Richard, yes.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelia Shea says nay.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right, so that's 4-1. All right, so we do have conditions for this that you've written up?
Sure. So, start at the beginning. So, prior to the issuance of the building permit, and then you also have a copy of these in your packet there. A true copy of the recorded decision is registered at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, shall be submitted to the permitting department. The applicant shall provide the permitting department with documentation of Eversource's approval of the proposed interconnection. The applicant shall adhere to the recommendations of the fire department found in the comment letter dated May 13, 2021, addressing energy storage systems, general conditions, and site access. The fire department must approve in writing any modifications to its recommendations. The developer shall submit and maintain a ground fuels meter carrying and maintenance schedule to the permitting department and the fire department. The fire department shall approve the ground fuels maintenance schedule. Condition number 5, the developer shall submit an emergency response plan to the fire department and the permitting department. Condition number 6, the fire department shall accept the proposed site access in writing prior to issuance of the building permit. Condition number 7, any outstanding of the review and inspections deposit account shall be paid. Condition number 8, the applicant shall receive approval from the planning board for all signage required under section 3580.26.2. Number 9, the applicant shall submit to the permitting department updated product information from all major components, including make and model PV panels, transformer, inverter, mounting system, chemicals for cleaning and maintenance equipment to be provided as part of the building permit submission. Condition 10, the applicant shall submit the contact information for the system installer as part of the building permit submission. Prior to the issuance of an electrical permit, number 11, the applicant shall provide the town with a decommissioning bond for 125% of the decommissioning cost of the project. Condition number 12, the applicant shall ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code requirements on access, fencing, and security. Statement of compliance shall be submitted to the building commissioner and planning director by the electrical inspector. Number 13, final electrical line diagram stamped by licensed professional engineer shall be submitted to the town with the building permit submission. Number 14, if the applicant sells or transfers the solar project, the seller and buyer must come before the planning board to review the approved site plan and decision and affirm the project will be constructed according to the approved site plan and decision. Condition 15, the project will be constructed shall be constructed to the approved site plan and decision. Any revisions to this project will require approval from the planning board as modification to this decision. 16, the solar panel shall not exceed 11 feet in height above grade as shown as sheet C6.1 on the site plan as revised on June 14, 2021. Condition 17, the owner-operator of the solar project shall submit an annual report to the board through the planning director no later than 45 days after the end of the calendar year, certifying compliance with the approved plans and requirements. Condition number 18, the applicant shall notify the planning board through the planning director by certified mail of the proposed date of discontinued operations and plans for removal of the solar project. Condition 19, prior to the start of construction, the applicant shall submit a record of construction, general permit coverage, and the site-specific stormwater pollution prevention plan, which includes a figure that depicts the proposed location of controls. Number 20, clearing limits beyond agricultural purposes, if necessary, shall be marked in the field prior to clearing, and the planning board notified to allow them the opportunity to verify clearing extents prior to beginning clearing activities. Number 21, dust control is required during construction, and the roadway aprons be kept swept and clear of any dust, dirt, or debris. Condition 22, construction equipment and trucks shall not idle or operate on the site prior to 7 a.m. Construction activities shall only occur Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy and use, the applicant shall provide any requested training to the fire department for mitigating emergencies on site. Condition 24, a final inspection shall be conducted to confirm existing bog roads are the same or better condition than they are currently. Bog road repairs will be completed as needed. 25, as-built plans shall be submitted to the town's engineer and permitting department in both electronic and hard copy form prior to the final inspection. In accordance with section 3180, compliance of the zoning bylaws, the town's engineer shall inspect the project to ensure that it has been completed in compliance with the approved site plan and its conditions. And that's the end of that.
Anything else? Any other concerns by additions? All right, having read that, entertain a motion to approve the special permit and site plan with conditions for Northwest Plymouth Street Solar on 0 Plymouth Street.
I'll make that said motion.
So I have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
So Kevin Robinson made the motion, John Gadsky second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelia Shea says nay.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
So that's 4 and 1 against. All right, so that's all set. So thank you for coming. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how
We'll see.
many we end up with.
Yeah.
All right, so next, so we're going to go on to number 10. Okay. So number 10, these are new public hearings, and let me read the public hearing notice. So in accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on June 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 4, on the application of Brewery 44, requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3500, 5300, 3570 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 2 Montello Street in Carver, Mass., Assessors Map 22, Lot 5-B-R, to exceed the signage dimensional requirements in the Highway Commercial District. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver Reporter, published dates June 4th and 11th of 2021. So who do we have here? Anyone here to represent Brewery 44? Nobody's here. All right, what do we know about this, Jim?
So, they submitted an application for a wall sign on the front of their building. And so they're requesting 44 square feet for the wall sign, and then there's the directory sign that's out on the street. They're requesting 27 square feet for that.
27 square feet.
That's for the bird. There's no application for the pole sign at the street, and it doesn't.
No, well, here's where the confusion is. So on the sign permit page, they have something written down, street, and then they have another one that's building. So for building, they have it as 44 square feet, and for the street, they have it as 27 square feet.
So one is in the directory, and then one's on the building, I would imagine. Do they show a picture of it?
They showed the building, but I didn't see anything on the directory.
No, the one on the directory actually isn't in the slots. It's
aside the slots.
It's aside the slots. It's not in.
There's not enough slots.
So they made up.
Oh, they're asking for another sign, okay.
So they're making up.
Oh, so they can't fit it in the directory?
No, so they stuck it on the side.
Oh, they stuck it on the side. Well, okay. I mean, what can you do if there's not enough room? And these both are over our normal
Size
size limit, yeah, okay. So that's why this is coming to us as a special permit.
And they've already been installed. I would.
We just have to make sure that they had a building permit to do that. Yeah, they're going to have to.
In order to have the sign,
permit, yeah.
in order to get the building permit, they would have had to have the planning board approve it first.
Right.
Then,
No, I understand.
yeah, so they got ahead of themselves.
I would like to motion to continue this till we.
Yeah, I mean, the signs are up, so we may approve them, but you'll still have to pursue them for what a building permit would cost.
Well, they submitted those fees, but...
Oh, they've given the fees, okay.
Right, so they already provided the fees as part of the
Okay.
application process.
All right,
And you
okay.
provide everything all at the same time, but they, my understanding is they had the sign up for quite a while beforehand, so...
Yeah, I mean, but that happens all the time. Not that it's right, but it happens all the time. But at least, I mean, did somebody catch it, or did they did they just
It's
realize?
pretty big. And there's some confusion as to whether the bird is included in this square footage or the signs at the road are included in.
Yes, it is. It says right here, conditions if approved, bird.
Well, I just started down
The
the...
lettering.
So when they first came to us, I was just using it as a scratch pad, trying to figure out, because they, on their, where the hell is it? Somewhere they had dimensions.
Bird, the lettering. And
Oh, actually, okay, so if you look at the measurements, it says bird 82 inches by 48 inches.
So they did.
And they have lettering 168 inches by 38 inches. And then when I did that calculation, the bird was about just over 27 square feet. And the lettering was over 44 square feet.
Okay.
So it was over 71 square feet total.
And when they come before the board and have to pay a fee, is it upon the size of the sign?
No,
Or it's just a
pretty much
standard
flat.
fee?
Yeah,
It's just a
standard
flat
fee.
fee? Okay, all right. So the bird's included, that's fine.
There's just so much confusion about the square inches. What are they applying for? Is it the bird? Is it the pole sign? Is the bird included in it? Is the pole sign?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it says that the bird was included, they've given dimensions.
So when the planning board...
It's not. If I'm reading the second page, the bird is not included in it. The bird itself is more than 38 inches
Lettering
tall.
168 by 38, 82 for... Oh, this is, well, it is confusing because the dimensions listed there say 82 inches by 48, which are the same dimensions that's listed for the bird on the front page, but on the application itself, it says street, so
Is there also a bird on the street?
I don't know. I was up that way, I didn't see that this weekend when we were up that way. So I think, we need to have these folks come in and tell us what they're trying to get accomplished.
I think so.
You want them to do that? Okay, I mean, you can ask them to do that, then we...
Yeah.
You want to continue this to the next meeting? Yeah, sure.
The
What do
problem
you guys feel?
the problem that I have with the whole thing is, I mean, is this thing already up?
Yep.
And the pole signs.
All the signs are up. It's even illuminated.
Well, I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with it. I mean, if that's basically saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
Well, I mean, it's a special permit, so they have to pay, a higher fee to do this. I understand what you're saying. But apparently they
So
maybe
basically,
didn't know.
I pay more money and I get to do whatever I want?
No.
No.
I'm not knowing.
But that's essentially what's happening here.
Well, okay, let's let's continue this to a next meeting, and then we'll have somebody come down and talk about it, and then give me a time to go in and take a look at this thing and see if we just got one bird or two, or and then whatever.
Yeah,
So we'll give us a time.
I go to Aldershot all the time, but
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that.
I haven't even looked at it.
No. All right, so let's continue, so let's continue this public hearing to July 13th.
Kaylee Shea would like to make a motion to
7 o'clock.
the hearing for Brewery 44 special permit signage to 7 o'clock, July 13th.
Second.
So, motion by Cornelia Shea, second by John Gatsky. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Richie DeYoung says aye.
Kaylee Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right. So we go on to the next. On the application of R.W. Bryant Contracting, Inc. Oops, let me read the, so this is number 11. I get it here, thank you. Print it out. I have a public hearing notice in accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw. The Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on June 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 4, on the application of R.W. Bryant Contracting, Inc., requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3500, 5300, and 3570 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 318 Fremont Street in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 127, lot 10-1-R, to extend the signage dimensional requirements in the Industrial A District. Any persons interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver Reporter, published dates June 4th and June 11th of 2021. You're here, somebody's here.
I was in zoning the whole night, so I'm a little mortified.
All right, okay. So, if you could tell us what you're doing out here, please.
Well,
Give us your name and address, please.
Susan Fitzgerald, Kingston Sanorama, 62 Main Street, Boston, Mass. But I did have a quick change from this morning. Can I give this to you guys?
Sure.
I only have 5, though. They called me up and made a change for the posts. I think you have granite posts.
I can share this.
Okay.
Okay.
And they changed it to wood. And also, they paved the parking lot. So that changed. So you've got, I may have one more, but. So I'm going to ask for permission, not forgiveness.
Jim, what's the square footage allowance for your business? Is that 16 feet?
So, in the IA district, so 10% of the wall area for a wall sign, 16 square feet for a freestanding sign, and a maximum of 32 square feet for business.
Okay, so how many signs do we have? We have one on front of the building, and we have one on a sign alongside the street.
Right, so you have a wall sign and a freestanding sign.
All right, now, what are the sizes of these signs again? Because I know I discussed this with Jim this afternoon.
The freestanding sign is 26 2/3
square feet.
128.66 total for both signs.
So, which sign, I know that one of the signs was quite large, I think.
The building sign, maybe?
Yeah, the building, the
Was it
sign,
the-
10% of the wall.
Yeah, which one were you concerned with, Jim, or were you
Well, it
concerned with
was
both?
the total amount being requested. So the district allows, what we say, maximum 32 square feet of signage per business. So they're kind of like more than 4 times the required amount. So if you look at 32, and then the total signage they're looking for is 129. So 4 times that, 8, 4 3 so 12, 128 square feet. So it's about 4 times the required, the maximum in the district. So I was just kind of concerned about that, but I thought, really should be discussed by the board on, we've been.
It's about 128 square feet.
So it won't be just the building square foot.
Just the building square foot is 102 square feet.
Correct.
Does it matter if there's two buildings? There are two buildings on the property.
Are you putting signs on both buildings?
No.
So we're still at
Yeah,
two
no.
signs, all right?
Yeah.
Have these signs been made yet, or this is just proposed?
Yes,
So they could be changed?
yes.
I don't know, what do you, I don't, so this is what it'll look like on the building. I mean, this building is this the
This is the
helicopter
old
place?
helicopter.
Yep.
So it, I mean, anything done out in the front would be an improvement, because
It's all it is asphalt now, the whole entire thing.
So you've re-asphalted that, huh?
We did,
I mean,
yeah.
not that has anything to do with signs, but it'll look
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
nicer, yeah.
It does look nice.
Yeah,
By
I'll
this
have to
weekend,
go by there.
It's all nice, clean blacktop.
And then I don't know, I know there's the concrete place and there's other businesses down there. I don't know how big their signs are. I mean, is this a concern to the members?
The square footage concerns me, yes. It's excessive.
So what would you suggest then? We would start with the sign out by the road. Do you think that that's too big?
I think just a sign on the building would be significant enough, you know?
And that's well over.
And that's well a lot right there, you know?
And I would honestly make it smaller and allow one or the other, you know? Try and keep it within a reasonable amount of signage. I mean,
Do you have the square footage of the front wall of the building?
The front of the building
Right.
is
'cause-
55 linear feet.
But what's the square footage? Because it's supposed to be,
It's based on square footage.
right, because it's supposed to be 10% of the wall area.
What do you mean the wall area?
The area
of the building, yeah.
above that canopy where the sign is going.
And it also has to be lower than the lowest point of the roof, doesn't it?
I don't know about that part of it, but, you know, just the area, it would include up to that peak, you know, but no dimensions have been provided for that area.
Yeah, I don't think I have that.
Yeah.
Could you,
So, this is one of the neighboring building signs. So,
That's the stone one?
yeah, that's the Stoneworks. So they're,
I think they're quite large though, aren't they?
I would say it's probably a little larger than what's proposed here. That's probably,
but when you,
uses all of 32 feet.
when you look at the building itself, there's no. Well, it doesn't look like there's really any sign out here.
John gets to play with all the tools.
It gets so lost. I gotta figure out where I am and it's.
Well, actually, the signs do look nice, and I think the one out in the street looks nice. Would that be lit, or is that just gonna be?
Probably gooseneck lights, and he was gonna put some bollards in front of it and stonework around it with some, plants.
Even
I
in
mean,
the
that would
asphalt?
be a nice improvement.
Yeah, the electrical has been put in already, so.
I think I did see that.
Yeah.
There we are. Now we have a nice clear shot. It's on a six-wheel Mercedes.
I don't know.
driving by.
Do you want to take a look at this and then do this for our next meeting or something?
Yeah, well, maybe if we have at least some guidance too. I mean, given seeing how it's presented on the building, assuming it's done to scale, that signage looks about right.
On the building?
On the building.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with any of it myself, but it's just...
Right, it's just...
it's an improvement for what was there.
And
Well, I think
it's
it's
just
more
a-
important to have this sign than it would be on the building. I mean, for the sake of in commercial.
And trucks, safety, they can see it beforehand.
Right. One thing I would maybe consider is bringing the sign down to 10% of the wall space on the entire building. So we're gonna need to know, even though it's 55 inches, you need to know how high it is, then you need to take the triangular frontage and bring that down to 10% at least on the building. That way there you can concentrate on your signage that's going to be going up with the 6x6 and PT posts. Because like you said, that's the one you want to be seen.
Well,
It's not up to me, but it makes sense to me.
Right.
well, but they are paying for a special permit, so what's 10%? Is that?
That's what I'm saying, they can only, 10% is the maximum.
Right, so 10% of the wall area is how they calculate the maximum for the wall.
Okay.
And then the other part of the, then it's stated that it's this district again.
If we calculate it, if that's 55 inches wide, if that's approximately, say, 45 inches high, would that be 2,200
What's the
square feet?
No, 55, you're doing 55 feet
Wide. And then say, that's probably 2/3, so that could be about 40 square feet, 40 linear feet high.
Yeah, you've got 55.
And that would give you about 2,200 square feet. So 10% of that is what, 220?
55 times 1.75.
But I think going forward, the thing is to have the exact measurement so that we can know, what roughly 10% of it's going to be. And then you have to determine whether the 10% is included on the building and the sign of the street.
So the maximum should be 32 total square feet. So if we go back to the table and the bylaw, there's like 60, so that's, they have tables for each of the different use districts. So this is an industrial district. So the total of all signs in the industrial district is 32 square feet per business. And that's for 2 signs per business, it's 32 square feet.
Oh, so it's 32 times 2, so that's 64 square feet total.
No, two per business, but 32 square feet for business, so that's the total.
Oh, 32 square.
Right, so a freestanding sign, which is the one that's out by the street, the maximum is 16 square feet. And then you come down to the, so the wall sign, they don't have square footage, it's 10% of the wall area. But you gotta fit it, if you have an oversized wall area, you still gotta limit it to,
It's going to have to be the difference of the 40 inches,
Right, it
40
has to be about
inches by
16 square
96.
feet. So each one has to be 16 square feet.
And it has to be...
Without a variance or with a?
Well, you can ask for more, but, so the target is 16 square feet. All right, 16 square feet for the one, 16 square feet for the other one on the wall. So that's your 32 square feet for the business.
So what can we do?
It also has to be lower than the lowest point on the roof.
I think that can be reduced. If we could keep the street sign that size, and we could reduce that so it does stay to the point you're talking about with this here.
With the bottom.
Right here.
Yeah.
If we bring that down, just shrink that, I actually think this is big myself. I didn't design it. I think it can shrink down and satisfy that. And I don't know what the square footage would be, but we could figure that out.
So the freestanding sign would remain the same size?
Yeah.
And then the wall sign would be shrunk down?
Yes. So it's to the bottom of the, I think that seems reasonable. Keep that low. And
96.
it's pretty big here. It doesn't have to be as big as it.
If we still probably going to be looking at around 7.
It would probably be about 20% smaller than it is now, or 30. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so...
It's a little more reasonable, I guess, yeah.
Still a lot, over 16 feet.
This will be more like kind of like this.
Well, the street sign's 26 square feet.
Right, and I'd be willing to.
So that, if that's the maximum amount to go with, if you were to stay with that maximum amount on the street, you'd have 26 square feet, so you'd really only have another 8 square feet to work with. Not even 8, 6.
But that's
6 square feet to work with on the building.
That's without a special permit.
Right.
Oh, that's without the special permit.
Yeah, so you're paying for more money,
Okay.
for
Yeah.
more
But,
square footage.
I would think roughly 26 feet on the building wouldn't be out of line. 26-foot sign and 26 on the building. Like a 8 by 2.2 or something.
Could we do something like that? Could you repeat that again?
You got the,
Right now, it's 192.
right, the one on the street is almost 27 feet. You want, I would think the board would agree that roughly the same size on the building wouldn't be overly oppressive.
Oh, what you have out in the street, put sort of the same size on the
So
building?
half of what we have now, basically. Because it's 192, and this is 90, or 96. They make it so small you
I
can't
was
read
looking at
it.
square footage numbers, it's too late for me to do math.
I got a question. So the street sign everyone feels is okay, which is
Yeah.
26.66 square feet?
Yeah.
Which is the first thing you're gonna see going down the highway anyway.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's
Yeah,
the
and
most
then-
important sign.
So if
On
you
the
keep the one
building-
in the building the same,
So you keep those two, so you're using 26.66 for the wall sign and the freestanding sign?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna hold you to the,
No.
you know, but I
Okay,
mean,
measure it.
approximately,
But
it
it's
gives
somewhat
us
more
a target,
manage-
yeah.
Manageable.
I'll just ask for forgiveness. Kidding.
Well, it's not on there yet, so.
Right, at least you don't have to take it off.
But that makes sense. So they're about the same. And these are individual letters, we can maybe, I don't know. So that'd be good. Yeah.
If you could come back to us, if we could continue this meeting to, well, it seems like we're gonna have a lot on our next meeting.
Yeah.
What date is it?
Right.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to be out of town or something.
So, go down Brewery 44, I don't know.
We didn't do those signs.
So this would be on July 13th.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to continue R.W. Bryant Contracting special sign permit to July 13th at 7 o'clock.
So I'll just resubmit the proofs?
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be good.
That motion.
So Cornelia
I'll
Shea
second
made the
it.
motion, Kevin Robertson second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Richard Dion says aye.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gaston says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Now,
I have to use the bathroom.
okay,
We've
so
been
why
here
don't we
for
take
almost 3
a
hours.
5-minute break
Thank you.
or a 10-minute break?
I'll
Thank you.
my plans.
And so it's 9:54, and we'll take a 5 or 6 minute break and come back at 10. And by that time, hopefully Jim will have our plans.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right,
This was
we're
a-
back, okay.
Placeholder for what we would expect Eversource might dictate they need to put in, because that's their substation that they will own. And when we've got their engineering designs, their layout is required, this larger space, which forced us to move over some, squeeze in this, some of this material is squeezed into here, and then these were structures that were here, we've had to move over. They're the same pad size, same foundation, same equipment, it's just physically located here versus here.
Right.
Because of Eversource's
Yeah, we had maybe
taking more space.
3/4 of the space that we actually need based on Eversource's recent feedback.
Yeah.
And again, that's based on finishing the interconnection study process here recently.
Has the boundaries changed any? Because I see that this boundary comes down.
Yeah, so
Back.
we worked with the landowner to make sure that they will have adequate access to the bogs to the south, which they still operate. So the adjustment to the southeast there is to accommodate 45 feet.
Give them the turn, yeah.
Right, so it's really, that and is really for them to make sure we're accommodating their
Check
needs
out
on their
this
property.
portion.
These are still here.
I see.
That was the,
Yeah, that was like a proposed snow storage area, but this is showing the drainage design. But the area itself for the project where the facilities will be located is the same. The project size is the same. And just to take a step back, I know, mentioned this at the last meeting, but there's still a lot of work to do on this project, given where we are. We're a couple years out from construction. We're going to be starting the state process from a permitting standpoint, which is a requirement that we'll have to meet before we're able to start site work. And then, these updates and any future updates to the site plan that was permitted in 2019 will be coming back to the board for building permits, electrical permits. So the state process will be happening in tandem. It's not going to trump the town of Carver's review, but what we wanted to do here was really update the board, make sure what we're submitting to the state is something that you've seen, given that it's been a couple years since we got the permit.
So this is still in the same building footprint? It's still in that, is that a fenced-in area? Is that what this one?
Oh. Yeah, so like I mentioned, this area, the exact optioned area with our landowner, the contract we have with the landowner has shifted based on feedback from the landowner.
shifted in, reduced it a bit.
Right, exactly.
Because the area here changed.
Right, and there's an existing, where we were standing on the access road, that's going to stay the same. We're not going to be jutting onto the existing pathway that the Westons have on their property.
Would you remove from over here?
So this fence line has stayed the same, and this is abutting that Eversource corridor that's already existing for T-line.
The edit here is to align to the wetland map.
Yeah, so we're still staying within the existing order of conditions that were set
Okay,
forth with
yeah.
Carver's Conservation Commission.
Thinking about that, yeah.
And we updated them back in December.
Okay.
And there were no proposed changes to the order of conditions because we're still staying within the 65 feet of the buffer for the buffer for the wetland. So similar to what we did here and just adjusting the option area that we'll have under contract, similar to here, we're basically just adjusting the property line with the landowner to basically mirror that 65-foot buffer.
Okay. Oh, so when you do a minor modification, you have to go to conservation?
No, we were just providing them an update because we weren't requesting any change to the order of conditions.
Okay.
And we're
Oh,
not
I see
doing
what
that
you're
here
saying.
either. The minor modification application that we submitted that's Carver's form, lists out, I think, 9 or so options of what to check for what you're submitting as minor modifications, and we just checked off a few of those in the application that I think you all might have. So those were just minor modifications to the site plan that was permitted.
All right.
Now you moved something over in this corner here?
This is just showing a proposed snow storage area.
Where is the snow storage area going to be now?
We, right now, didn't show those. We're looking at options, given other projects in O&M that we're considering, to probably hire someone to basically take snow
Take it
out
out,
of the
remove it,
site.
not even deal with it on site, if that's the easiest thing.
And where was this moved from or to or?
Yeah, so this substation
was
facilities
part
was all shown as one here.
Yeah.
And again, we've gotten feedback from Eversource that they need that amount of space for their substation facilities. And then also in conversations with the Carver Fire Department, this also is an improvement of including a gate for them from the existing Carver substation, which is just north here, so that they can potentially access Eversource's substation if needed, as well as go into our project substation facility and go that way.
In this layout, the gate only gave access to the Eversource substation. The fire department's not allowed to enter Eversource's substation without Eversource presence. So this provides them access to our site from that side without having to go through Eversource's substation.
Right, and then we have the 2 points of access on the eastern side, which we talked through with both Jesse Boyle and the air
A
true.
lot of changes.
These are all, not shifting the project that was permitted in the broader sense. From a 30,000-foot view, this is not the final design. We will be adjusting and providing that final design once we're closer to construction and ready to start on the project.
All right, any other questions? Let's vote on this. So I'd like entertain a motion to approve the minor modification.
I'll make that motion that I made earlier tonight.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So I got a motion from Kevin, a second from John Gatsky. Any further comments? Being none, let's vote. Richard?
Richard,
Well, no,
Dion says aye.
This is not a special permit.
It's not a special.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, Connie?
Cornelius Shea says no.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
All right.
So that was 3-1, 3 in favor.
3 and 1, yes. 3 in favor, 1 no. So it carried. All right. So
Thank you.
we're good. I'm sorry to have delayed you, but
We'll take my ride home now, I don't have to do it in the rain.
and thank you for being here tonight and conducting a site visit.
No problem.
Something anymore?
So, you're gonna do the minutes tonight?
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
You gotta do minutes, you gotta do all.
Planning director, so planning board member notes. Any planning board member have anything to say tonight? Planning director notes.
Oh, Bruce, do you want to mention about your vacation time?
Well, yeah, I discussed with Jim, I didn't bring my calendar, but I will be out in August, so I won't be here for
The first week in August?
the first week in August. So I told that, and I would recommend if anybody is taking any time off or vacation time, tell Jim as soon as possible, in case that may affect, our meetings or whatever.
As member notes, Jim, I'll tell you right now that I'll be away from the 21st through the 28th of August.
So, can you say the 21st?
21st through the 28th.
21 through the 28th August. And then Bruce's date is August 7 to the 14th.
Yeah.
I will, I have time that I'll be away.
That was Bruce.
You don't know, or will you be?
September 27th.
Oh, September.
Yep. And then again, I will probably be out 18th and 19th of October as well. So if there's a meeting on the 19th, I won't be here for it.
Okay.
I'll be out of town. My oldest is getting married that week.
Wow, that's something. You don't look old enough to have a kid that old.
Yeah, he's 24. He's going to be 24. He's 23 right now.
All right, so you get those dates. So Right now, as it stands, our next, so anybody else taking any other time off? And then we
I think we're
might
all taking the
have
13th
to-
off.
Yeah, July 13th, I'll be out of
I'll
town.
be out of town July 13th through the 14th.
So, now Bruce, did you want to not have a meeting that,
In August?
I think
that
that,
first?
yeah, lightning
So we
strike.
got the,
Well, we got a couple of meetings to go,
so
but
we got
yeah.
10th and the 24th
Yeah,
are the dates, August
so I wouldn't be here the 10th.
10th.
And then is
24th.
somebody else being out? Was John going to be out on the 24th?
No,
did you
I
say?
was-
Oh, Connie was going to be out.
So Connie will be out. So we should, yeah, talk about whether or not we're going to have meetings on those dates. We do have a public hearing for Erickson starting up on the 29th of July. No, I'm sorry, 27th of July. So getting that,
Okay. All right. Well, at least you know now, Jim. Yeah, I mean, Jim was thinking of maybe just doing one meeting for August. Was that your plan, Jim?
well, that was the thought, you know, we had, if you were going to be out, it also gives me an opportunity to burn some excess vacation time.
Like the 10th? Are you here with me this week again? After, I thought maybe the 10th, but I'm not looking at a calendar and
Yeah.
You on?
Oh, Monday.
because
Monday,
I'm gone
Tuesday.
this week, he's gone.
Yeah,
So the 10th.
August.
Yeah, the 10th would be,
Mine's still functioning somehow.
Well, see, I'm going to be gone, let's see, the 7th through the
Oh,
14th.
Oh, I thought it was the
Yeah,
14th.
so the 10th,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to
Right,
make.
right.
So it would just be the,
third
and then you're going to be out the
17th.
24th, so it'd be the 17th
Yeah.
or the 31st. Would the 17th be
That
okay with
sounds
you,
good.
Jim? Would that, just that one meeting that month?
Oh, to, instead of the 24th, the 10th and the 24th, we just
Yeah.
have a meeting on August 17th?
Yeah, or the 31st, yeah.
That's Labor Day week. Oh, no, that's not Labor Days.
It's
A week
fall.
later.
Yeah, well,
Well, we've got another couple of meetings to think about that, but that's all right with everybody. With
What did we decide to do about our minutes?
Okay, so I think we were doing plan and direct the notes, but then we
Oh.
can go down to the, are you all set now, Jim?
Yeah, just-
With everything that you need to
That's
know?
my notes.
Okay,
Getting in everyone else's business.
okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, so we have the minutes of 5/25, 2021. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Cornelia Shea so makes that motion.
Do I hear a second?
second.
Mr. Shea made the motion, Mr. Gasky second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote, starting with Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Geske says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right, so our next meeting date will be, we've only said it 1,000 times.
13th of
July 13th and July 25th, but the next one, July 13th,
27th.
27th, yeah.
or the 27th.
Thank you.
Oops, okay. Well, the next one's the 13th anyway. So,
Paperwork.
need a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So, Mr. Robinson made the motion, Mr. Shea second, those in,
Cornelia
Mr.
Shea says
Robinson.
aye.
Mr. Gasky.
Aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
All right, good night, everyone, thank you.